10 seconds.
Welcome to Clever Title Pending, a proud member of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. We talk to creatives about creativity and the business behind them. So type in your questions and become part of the conversation. And now, here's your host, Brian K. Morris.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome to a very special edition of Clever Title Pending for Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. Thank you for being here. How the heck are you? And I'm excited to have my friend Bobby Nash on. We're going to bring him out in just a minute. We hope you got some great questions and some comments for him. But first of all, we want to thank the Rising Tide Broadcasting Network for powering this show. We've got your entertainment and information covered 7 days a week. Tomorrow, we're going to start at 10 a.m. with TED Talks Timepieces. At 11, it'll be Ted and Carl's Cigar Show. Then at 7 p.m., Comic Book Spectrum with Eric Hawkins, Clyde Hall, Brian Rodman, and myself, followed by Creative as Hale with Amy and John Hale. And then Stupid O'Clock at 9 p.m. with Joe Dog McKeel, Skunk Rocker, and all those great guys and gals on there. So please check it out. Take a screen capture of this card here and carry it with you everywhere. Get a tattoo made of it. We're not going to change it for a while. Also, we want to thank our Patreon friends who are supporting us. Patreon is a monthly subscription service where you can support your favorite creators directly. But you get something for it, though. You know, it's not like you're just handing us money. We give you stuff for it. Advanced looks at works in progress, information, news, special blog entries that you can see nowhere else. So check us out at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. And as always, thank you to Plasma Fire Graphics, who we're going to mention a lot tonight because they did this cover here to the latest Snow Shorts, which has my name on it for a very good reason. We're going to talk about Snow Shorts and the brand new book Snow Ambition tonight with the creator of Abraham Snow, Mr. Bobby Nash. But please check it out. And please check out Plasma Fire Graphics when the look of your book matters to you. You saw their trailer at the top of the show. They can do that for you very affordably. So check them out both on Facebook and at plasmafiregraphics.com. And now we have waited long enough. We are going to bring out the man, the plan, the legend. Here he is, Mr. Bobby Nash. And I'm going to unmute you. There we go. Now we're going to hear from the man. How you doing, Bobby?
Sorry, my acting skills.
Yeah. I do that too, but the thing is, I've muted myself so many times, nobody notices. You know, they just figure I've screwed up again, so I'm used to that.
They're like, I enjoyed this episode so much, I can't put my finger on what it was.
Yeah.
I couldn't hear anything.
Yeah. Brian was much better than usual, so mostly because I couldn't hear all the blather coming out of his gob. So, but anyway, Bobby, thank you for being here, man.
Oh, my pleasure. This is a lot of fun. It's always a pleasure to come on here and chit chat with you. I always have a good time, and we're talking about one of my favorite topics, snow. So that's always a nice plus. Let's see my snow in the back. Sorry, backwards.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. There it is. Well, I'll tell you what, our audience is starting to assemble. I'm going to let you have the floor. And Bobby, tell people who you are, give them your resume, and why you are so awesome.
Well, I'm Bobby Nash. I'm a writer. I occasionally dabble with a little art and acting on the side, but mostly just draw, or mostly just write. And I love making up stories and coming up with characters. And I write novels, comic books, short stories. I've dabbled in screenplays and audio scripts and things like that. And I just love storytelling. So any format I'm allowed to do it in, you know, I jump at the chance to try it. And as we mentioned, we are here tonight to talk a lot about Snow, and among other things. And Snow is a series that I created that I'm very proud of. That's been around a couple of years now, and it's kind of my love letter to the cops and detective stories of the 70s and 80s. But it's a modern day story where it's all character is mostly first and foremost, and then I love throwing them into these really hazardous situations. And then, but you know, with tonight we're talking too about the Snow Shorts, which is short stories written by some fantastic author friends of mine who I've invited to come play with the toys for a while. And the latest one just came out that was written by our host, Brian K. Morris. That's him. Yeah. So it's the Snow Short thing was that it's an idea that hit me that, because I do a lot of anthology work where you get to play with other people's characters and things like that. And so it hit me, this idea that wouldn't it be fun to, have some people come in and play with these characters? Because I can only write so fast. and there has been a demand's probably the right word. There has been a demand from some readers for more Snow. I actually had one review says, "Why can't you write these weekly?" And I would if I could.
Yeah.
But I can't. So, but the idea hit me that wouldn't it be fun to have some other folks come in? And originally my idea was just like, well, let's just do an anthology.
Mhm.
But anthologies happen a lot, so I was trying to think, how can we make this unique? And so, plus with the Snow is in everything, with the titles and so when the name Snow Shorts hit me, it was like a light bulb went off and says, ooh. And so we'll start them out as standalone, 99-cent ebooks. And, because really what we want is people to read them, and if we can get them out there inexpensively for people to read them, first and foremost, that's what we want. And then we'll collect them as we go.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm very excited. So there have been 4 so far. One by myself. I wrote the first one, which was called Snow Flies. The second one was written by Gary Phillips. It was called Thieves Alley, which mine focused on Snow. Gary's story focused on Big John Salmon, Snow's friend. It's a thriller. It's like a heist thriller. Very cool stuff. Gary writes that sort of thing very well. The third book is by Nicole Givens Kurtz, and it is the actual first story that features Snow's mother in an adventure. Nicole, said, I really want to write her. I want to write Laura. And I was like, okay. I said, I haven't actually put her in the books yet. She's just been mentioned, but we've never seen her. And so we kind of brainstormed. She had a great story idea. And so we did that one. And, she writes a lot of the, detective and mystery stuff anyway. So this was her first time kind of going thriller. And so she was very excited to try her hand at a thriller. And what better way to try something for the first time than a shorter piece?
Right.
Because, you may find out sometimes, ooh, I don't like this, or ooh, this is not my genre, but she knocked it out of the park. And so she wrote a fantastic story, with Snow's mother. And then I pick things up from these stories too that will make their way into the regular series as well. And then we had this fourth one. They're all great, but there's always one hiccup bump in the road.
I know. Yeah, that guy's a hack. I've read his stuff. I read everything that guy puts out.
Yeah, but you wrote a story called Snow Ambition, which is a lot of fun, very action oriented, and plays into Snow's time as an undercover operative, which was a lot of fun. There's the cover, yes,
there it is, yeah,
and all of the covers are by our friend Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics. When the look of your damn, I don't have it memorized like you.
When the look of your book matters to you.
There you go.
Yeah.
So Jeffrey has done a fantastic job with these. I'm calling them portrait covers. It's basically because it's really, in some cases, it's our first look at these characters, in this format. And so it's wonderful to kind of see these come together of what the characters look like. And there's multiple uses we can have for that. Eventually I'm going to put here's everybody, meet the characters page, and these will be next to them because, they're just so cool. And so now we have 2 pictures of Snow. We have his mother and we have Big John. Jeffrey's also drawn Archer, the grandfather. And I'm doing a Snow short coming up with Mac, so we'll have a new picture of Mac soon. And I do know that we've got one coming that focuses on Snow's former partner, Elizabeth Walker. That's coming. We have one that's actually going to be focused on Snow's sister, put her in an adventure. So we've got other stuff, and and then there's others that I just don't know about yet because not everybody is like going, I want to do this. They're just like, I'll do something. And so, but so it's really cool. It's a lot of fun getting them in. As you know, whenever anybody writes anything that's yours, you're excited to see what other people do, but you're equally terrified. Not because the people I invited were people I knew. I figure if I'm going to start this experiment, start with people I know. That's that eliminates a few of those trip up points that a lot of times happens and stuff like this. So starting out with people I know made it a little easier. And I knew you wouldn't be going, okay, I'm going to kill this Snow guy. Or I want him to lose his arm. So but so I'm working with people, especially to start working with people that understand how it is to play with other characters that they don't own, and put them back in their put them back in the box when they're done. And so I'm excited. It's been a lot of fun. I'm loving the stories that have come out. They've been they're equally fun to read because I get to read them multiple times. And because I give it the first read for just to read it and see how it goes, because you also as the owner of these characters, I want to make sure we don't do anything that's like, oh yeah, we can't do that, or that part didn't work, or crap, I'm doing that in book 6, don't do that. That kind of thing. So there's that to keep the continuity the same, and and then you read it, but it's so fun. Like I said, I've had a ball reading them. Each author that's done one so far, you all have distinctive voices, so that part comes through as well. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Yeah, I had a lot of fun writing it, and like, excuse me, and like like last time you were on the, I think it was you, or was it John Bruning, talked about don't destroy Cleveland. We may need it later.
Yep.
Yeah,
Sean Taylor told me that once.
Yeah. You want to leave the character worse off than when you found them, and in my case, I wanted to put in a character or two that maybe you can use later on,
because and that's things that have been coming out of it too, like there in Gary's story, there was a bit where he has it's a Big John Salmon story, but he does talk to Archer Snow because he works for Archer in the books, and so there's a bit where they're communicating with each other, and he says some things that I was like, ooh, I love that. I'm going to use that later. So there's bits and pieces. So this is really growing the world, and sometimes it's a good way to introduce characters or to reintroduce characters. I'm really, with all my Ben Book stuff, that's my publishing company, Ben Books, I'm building this, it's this interconnected like crime thriller universe, where characters can meet. And so it ties in things like my Evil Ways books, because Sheriff Myers got his start there.
Right.
He's also in Deadly Games, so those three are now connected. Snow lives in the same in Summersville, which is where Myers is the sheriff of. Mac's actually in the Wind. So it's just this world where those things can cross over, and that's a lot of fun to play with. And because that's why I'm a big fan of things like the MCU. I grew up on comics where it was not uncommon for Spider-Man to swing around the corner and there's Daredevil.
Yeah.
And even if they don't team up, it's just you still realize, oh, they live in the same place. Or Spider-Man swings past the Baxter Building. I wonder what the Fantastic Four are doing, and he keeps going. And so I love playing with this universe where these characters can, if the story dictates, crossover. I do have plans for down the road. I'd like to do a big story that would, interconnect, pull people from the various books into a big story. I just don't know what that is yet, and I'm not ready to do it. I want to. That needs to be something special as we get going, because we're still getting rolling on these things, and so
That's great. I love it. And I had a lot of fun writing that thing. So,
Well, and thank you for doing it too. Because
oh,
I did have some
appreciate it.
people that said no. I talked to several people. Some said no. They all had, it's okay.
Yeah.
Some said no. Some said sure. Some said maybe. Let me think about it.
Hmm.
And so yeah, but it's really cool. It's also very cool to play with your friends.
Hmm.
Um, you know, it gives us stuff to. There's also part of the reason for starting with people I know
Hmm.
is I was looking at things like the promotional aspects of it,
Right.
doing stuff like this. People I'm going to see at conventions. Hey, we
Right.
can have a snow signing. There's 4 of us here.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
things like that. So there was a little bit of that pre-planning of things like that of what we can do,
Hmm.
to get the word out about the books. I also talked to authors that I know will talk up their books that
Hmm.
will, because not all authors do that. Not all creators do it. There's a lot of people that are, shy or,
Right.
like us, shy people
Oh, yeah.
that,
Painfully shy like
yeah,
us.
it's, so, so I get it. So, and these, it's ways to promote the books, but also we're promoting each other because,
Hmm. Yeah.
when I'm talking about Snow Ambition, I don't just say, check out Snow Ambition. I
Right.
mention you by name.
Right.
I mention Jeffrey who's doing the covers.
Hmm.
When you mention it, you mention all that. So it's a good cross promotional thing for all
Yeah.
of us as well. So,
Yeah. It
so I
is.
try to think of things like that for business terms
Hmm.
and, which is why I have all this gray hair.
At least you've got something
That's,
there. You know what I'm saying?
I
What
didn't
am I now?
have this. I didn't have this gray hair until I started writing.
And you've earned each and every follicle, right?
Exactly.
I hear you. I hear you. Let's say hello to some of our people watching tonight.
Absolutely.
Teresa Dunn. Mwah. Okay, we got the show on the road. Hope you're happy now. And hello, Carl Witzman. Good to see you as always. And thank you, Ryan Permison, for sharing this. And he's got a question for you. What were some of your favorite books growing up, Bobby?
Ooh. Well, I read a lot of comics growing up. That was the thing that kind of got me into reading. Spider-Man was
Hmm.
my first love, and I think that was because of the cartoon. The
Yeah.
'60s cartoon would air in reruns. Because
Right.
I was born in the '70s. It would play after school. Yeah, and so I would see the Spider-Man cartoon
Mhm.
after I got home from school, and I'm eating my snacks and whatever. And so I still remember the very first 3 comics that I ever picked out and bought myself.
Okay.
I convinced my mother to buy, I should say,
Mhm.
were we were in a department store that doesn't exist anymore called Zayre's. I remember that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Yes.
Yes, they're really dating myself there.
I hear you.
And so in the checkouts, they had the 3 comics in a bag,
Mhm. Mhm.
and where you could see 2 of them, and we're always trying to peek,
Yeah.
and I begged. There were 2 Spider-Man books in this, and I didn't know what the middle was. And
Mhm.
I begged and begged and begged. I think I begged enough. She just like, fine, I'll buy them if you shut up.
Yeah.
And so I get home and I tear into these comics. And not only was it exciting that they were 3 issues of Spider-Man, they
Oh.
were 3 consecutive issues of Spider-Man.
Ooh, wow, that's
So,
rare.
yeah. So it was issues 192,
Yeah.
193, and
Mhm.
194.
Ooh.
And so those were my first comics. I still have them.
Mhm.
Very wonderful comics. Excellent stories. Love the art. It was Marv Wolfman and Keith Pollard and Jim
Right.
Mooney
Mhm.
were on the
Mhm.
book.
Yeah.
And it's weird because the very next comic I got was a Fantastic Four issue,
Mhm.
issue 214, I think. 204 or 214, one of those 2.
Right.
Anyways, Marv Wolfman, Keith Pollard, and I'm like,
Mhm.
are these the only 2 guys that make comics? I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So,
These guys are busy.
these guys, yeah. So, but those were my first. But I also, my mother liked to read, so I would sometimes read, along with her, and she would pick me up books. I got into things like Encyclopedia Brown as a kid.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I remember this one novel. I read it. My mother did the Reader's Digest books,
Mhm.
and I read it there. Called The Snowbound Six by
Oh,
Richard Martin Stearns, which is
okay,
about
yeah.
people trapped on a mountain in a blizzard and trying to get off the mountain safely.
Right.
Which I think also may have led to some of my love for writing, stuff that happens out man versus nature and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
which I do a lot. And so I a couple of years ago actually found a copy of the original novel, not just the
Mm-hmm.
and so I bought it and just I have it. And I've been tempted. I haven't read it yet, but because there's a part of me that's afraid to
Yeah.
that my memories, my memories have made it better than it might be. So there's a
Yeah.
part of me that's afraid to read it, but there's
Right.
another part of me that's like, I'll get to it eventually. So,
Mm-hmm.
but stuff like that, Encyclopedia Brown was a big one. I devoured those. Um, got real into mysteries, doing stuff like that. So, Hardy Boys and
Yeah.
things like that. I remember after Star Wars came out, they put out some Han Solo novels,
Right.
and I convinced my mother to get me those, and I read those. And so stuff like that, I was just enamored of, and so, but mostly comics. But then we moved when I was in middle school, and so when I got to high school, our high school had a section with Conan paperbacks,
Oh, really?
the little
Wow.
comic book paperbacks, the
Yeah.
Marvel, the
Oh, yeah.
novels.
Yeah.
Oh, so I'd never seen those things before,
Mm-hmm.
and so it opened me up to a whole lot of new characters. I think that might have been where I read my first Star Trek novel, or so
Yeah.
it's like, hey,
Wow.
these are things I already love, and they
Yeah.
make books about them. Who knew?
Yeah.
you know, and
Mm-hmm.
so those were things as a kid. Those were the things I gravitated toward. Very much like the stuff I watched on TV. I was a big
Mm-hmm.
action adventure guy, sci-fi guy.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Very cool. And we are well, Ryan. I hope you're doing well too. And here we go. And we are hearing now from Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics. Good evening, Bobby and the Fez. An unholy alliance has been forged. Snow will never be the same.
Yes, it's
Yeah.
I referred to us in the post I shared earlier that we were the dastardly duo.
Yeah. I like that.
But
Like that very
yeah.
much. Yeah, and Ryan Permisson and Ryan, you got to get in touch with Bobby to be on your show about writing on
Ah.
Saturdays. Yeah, networking. Anyway, what are some of your favorite movies, Bobby?
I'm of the era. I will tell you also the first one, since we're talking about first comics.
Mm-hmm.
The first movie I ever saw in the drive-in, because we didn't have theater, wasn't as big a thing. It was drive-in.
Right.
The first movie I saw in the drive-in, it was a double feature. It was I don't know what the reason for it was, but this was they were doing double features, and it was it was kid friendly, like it was a kid friendly type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we made a day of it. I remember we went because during the day, because it was a Saturday, during the day, there was a flea market at the drive-in, and I remember we went to that. I bought some comics. That was my first time I'd ever met the Avengers, you
Uh-huh.
know.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we went out to eat. We came back, and they did a double feature of the Jungle Book, which I had seen on TV before, the
Oh,
cartoon.
nice.
And so
Yeah.
I'd seen that one on TV before, but that
Yeah.
was my first time seeing it up on the big screen. But when it was done and it got really dark, the first brand new movie I ever saw in the drive-in was Star Wars.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it was I was hooked. I was
Yeah.
hooked on.
Mm-hmm.
That just blew my mind.
Yeah.
As so many people of my age seeing that for the first time, it was just like your eyes are as big as saucers, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
it made such a big impact just on my life of
Yeah.
how just amazing it was,
Mm-hmm.
and probably sent me down this path a little bit.
Yeah.
And so I love sci-fi movies. I'm a big fan of those, and I like all kinds of movies. I'm not a
Mhm.
It's weird because I've been in a few, but I'm not a big gore fan. But
Right. Yeah.
but that's not, I don't mind a good scare though. I don't mind scary, and I do like a good horror movie, but I also enjoy the good action movie. And then some of these like cartoony type action movies where you just kind of turn your brain off and
Mm-hmm.
enjoy the spectacle. Those
Yeah.
are those can be fun. So yeah, just whatever strikes my fancy. But I mean, you can't go wrong with the Star Wars movies, or Indiana Jones the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Because and part of the reason that Star Wars stands out for me,
Mm-hmm.
my family growing up, my parents were not movie goers.
Mm-hmm.
So most of my favorite movies I've never seen in the theater.
Mm.
Some of them I haven't seen in the theater until recently, because in the last few years, more places are doing retro
Right.
movies, or
Yeah.
so like Die Hard. The first
Yeah.
Die Hard I saw in the theater was the third one. The first
Yeah.
Star Trek movie I saw in the theater was the fifth one. The first Indiana Jones I saw in the theater was the third one.
Right.
The first Alien I saw was in the third one. So I've been able to catch up. So I've been able to see Raiders on the big screen, and Wrath of Khan on the big
Yeah.
screen. And,
Oh yeah.
oh, the biggie for me, I got to see Jaws on the big screen.
Oh,
A
nice.
few years ago for the first
Yeah.
time, and that was nice. And
Yeah.
because that's one I had seen all these on TV, but I had never, and it does make a difference. You see
does.
details.
Yeah.
There are details that stand out to you that you don't recognize on the TV.
Right.
And so yeah, so stuff like that. I got to see Die Hard a couple of years ago for the first
Mm-hmm.
time on the big screen.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like that. So it's a lot of, so I love these type of things when they, when I can go to them. I mean, obviously I haven't done it in over a year, but,
Yeah.
but I do look forward to getting back to doing those and catching up on movies like that I only know from a smaller,
Right.
smaller perspective. But yeah, but I love all kinds of movies. Like I said, yeah. I hope that answered a question somewhere in there. Jaws is probably my favorite movie of all time.
I understand that. That's an incredible movie. Yeah.
I could watch Jaws every day. If it's on TV, if I'm flipping channels and it's on, I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
There's a few movies like that. Jaws, Wrath of Khan,
Yeah.
Tombstone.
Yes.
The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Die Hard, I could probably, if Die Hard's on, or one of those, those are kind of movies that, I could just watch over and over, and have watched over and over and over again. And I don't rewatch Star Wars as much.
Yeah.
Lately. I mean, as a kid, I watched them a lot because I remember before, Blu-rays and DVDs were a thing. Star Wars to me was a Christmas and Thanksgiving thing, because I remember USA Network for years would play all three of them. And then when there were only three, they would play all three of them on Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day. Right. So while we're over at the grandparents' house, staying out from underfoot while they're cooking, I'm watching them blow up the Death Star. So what more is there to be thankful for than blowing up the Death Star?
Yeah. And what's this Christmas quite like a huge explosion that you can hear in space?
Right. It's the giving season. Luke gave his all.
Exactly.
So yes, but those are movies I can watch over and over and over again.
I hear that. And Cindy Cap says, just when you thought it was safe. Cindy, we're glad you're here. CKOEPP.com. Sign for her free newsletter, please. And Carl Witzman put on his like. Hopefully others will remember. Yes, please put a like on this if you're watching on Facebook. And if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up. And tonight, will this be the night I cross the 500 threshold? Woo-hoo. I have 499 subscribers on my YouTube. Well, who is going to be number 500? I have no idea. Like, sure, dude, says Cindy Cap. And Cindy has a joke for us. What do snowmen wear on their heads? Ice caps. Oh, I love it. And let's see here. And I'm going to come back to one of Ryan's questions, but this is something that is pretty important. Cindy would like to know, will you later collect these stories into an omnibus?
That's an awesome question. I have a visual aid. Hang on one second.
Okay.
If I can reach it without choking myself.
Yeah, don't do that. That'd be bad.
On my earbuds here. Sorry, I'm very wired in here.
Yeah. I'm wired too.
Yes, in answer to your question, the short answer is yes. So what I do with the regular snow books, let me get it in front of the camera. A regular snow book, as you can see, is about yay thick. This is roughly 30,000 words ish. The snow shorts themselves are 10,000 words a piece, give or take. Some went over, some went a little under, but it around about averages out to that. So every 3 will get collected in a 5x8 book like this. It'll just be Snow Shorts, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, etc., etc. So that'll happen after every 3. So Brian's is number 4. So actually, either later this month or probably more likely in June, there will be a paper collection with the first 3 in it. And it'll have a cover by Jeffrey Hayes. He'll do the cover. And we'll also have an ebook that you can buy the collected ebook and get all 3 in one ebook. We will also have audiobooks once we go to the collected edition. Now, that being said, some people like to wait until we get to this point. This collects 3 of these. So when I collect 3 of the collecteds and have 9 stories, there will be a 6x9 larger volume, which will be in paperback and hardcover. So there will be multiple ways to get it in whatever format people want. And there will be an ebook to match the collected and an audio to match whatever collected. So yes, you will have multiple options of how to get them.
Yes.
And if you buy them all, the authors will love you for it.
Exactly. I was going to say, don't wait for the big ass omnibus. Get everyone you can right now. So, yeah. And I will sign all of them.
Yeah. So that's the plan to do that, because some people have been buying the regular snow books and people are buying them in either one of these 2 formats. So I want to make sure these 2 formats are available so they all look uniform on your bookshelf.
There you go. So, because Bobby cares.
Because Bobby cares.
That's right. That's a motto of Ben Books, because Bobby cares.
Yeah, and that's kind of my Ben Books format. With In the Wind, the Sheriff Myers will be the same way. I have a couple of other plans for later in the year or next year that would do the same thing. Every smaller book. Plus, that also helps as a small press in an indie press. It's hard for me because I'm not a household name. It's hard to get people to try a book for $20 when I can go, here, I got this $8 book in paper or $2.99 ebook. People are more willing to try something. And so, as from a business model, doing this helps me to hopefully reach new readers.
Right. And be sure to leave a review when you do read our books.
Oh, yes. Reviews are awesome.
Yes, indeed they are. Ryan Permison asks, what is it about crime thriller novels that you enjoy the most?
Good question. I do love a good thriller. I love and with thriller, there's usually a suspenseful type atmosphere, or there's a killer. Who are they going to get next, or will we get there in time? Those type of things. I love that almost ticking clock feeling of, we've got to get this done quick, or if we don't catch this, if we don't find this guy in time, this is going to happen, that kind of thing. So I enjoy that. I love writing crime stories. Mostly I've written them from the prospect of the people trying to solve the crime, but I've also had fun writing about the criminals. I don't want my criminals to be, just criminals. I try to make them as relevant. I try to get to know them as well as the heroes. And in some cases I do that better than others, but the main villain in the first 6 snow books, I got to know very well. And in times, there's chapters devoted to that character that have nothing to do with snow at that point. And so that was one of those things I kind of learned that from reading Elmore Leonard. Because Elmore Leonard would spend so much time, with the bad guys, and you get to know them as people, to where sometimes you're rooting for them because you like them, And so those are things I like to do, is, get to know the villains, get to know the heroes and the villains, and and sometimes they're not so cut and dried. Sometimes the heroes do villainous things, and the villains still might love their mother or save somebody's life, but they're still the bad guy. So being able to do stuff like that. So I love coming up with the crimes and committing the crimes. It's a lot of fun because I want the crimes to be kind of plausible. Sometimes they're not. I'm no criminal mastermind. To anyone listening, I am not a criminal mastermind. Yes. But trying to come up with ways for the crime to work, so I still try to plan it like the criminal would. How would I do this? Why would I do this? Why would I do it this way? Come up with different ways. I've also got to meet very interesting people who have jobs that I can sometimes ask them questions about how would you do this or why would you do that, or, but you have to, so you have to come up with the plan for the crime. You have to come up with how they're going to get caught. You don't want every book to just be your criminal gets caught because they did something stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, that happens, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you don't want every criminal to be stupid. I want criminals who are equal to the task, or sometimes smarter than my hero, because that gives your hero something to overcome. If your hero is automatically smarter than the people he or she is facing, there's no challenge. And so, I think that's why so many people have trouble writing Superman. So you have to look for other things to challenge that character. And so, with the books too, and with knowing who the characters are and getting to know them, not just as their characters, but their surroundings and the people in their orbit, you can have characters can have things going on in their life that impacts their job, or, 2 or 3 things are going on at one time. And so your focus is split, or things like that. And so you can get to know all the characters, put them in those real world, in those real situations that tie into the story you're telling. And that even works if you're telling a story set in outer space. If your characters are real and you believe that the characters live in that setting you've created, you can make the reader believe. So that's like me. It's like, I don't have to understand how warp speed works. But if you tell me it works and I believe you that it works, then I believe warp speed works. I don't need to know how it works. Scotty can just go, the warp engines are working, Captain, and I'm there. I believe it because they make me believe it. And so there's a lot of stuff that way where you can just kind of make things happen because your characters believe they happen. So.
Yeah. Well, I think you touched on an excellent point about, like, one thing I do like about the Snow series, the ones that you've written, when Abraham Snow comes out on top in a situation, it's because he has like a moment of awesomeness. Not because the villain had a fatal flaw in their plan. Probably the weakest criminal mastermind is probably in the book I wrote. But he was designed to be that way.
Right.
And, that's the guy he's the MacGuffin. He sets up the situation to where we go from the Bush League villain all the way up to the World Series level villain.
And the thing with Snow, too, that I like, because when we meet him, he's at the end of this is his job. So he's getting into all these things as a private citizen, it's not like it's his job to go hunt these things down. So there's a character bit to Snow where you can just almost hear him go, "Oh God, not again."
Yeah. And maybe now's a good time. Describe Abraham Snow. Tell everybody what he's about.
Okay. Well, Snow is this guy who, like I said, again, these stories are my love letters to kind of the characters and situations that I saw in TV and books and movies in the 70s and 80s. So with that as your basis in mind, the idea for Snow was that he's a guy who he did not have the best of childhood, of upbringing, and he's one of those guys, we've all met these guys, cannot wait to get out of this podunk town I grew up in, to leave everything behind. And he does that. He graduates high school, walks off the graduation field, and enlists in the Army. Like, he does not go home, and he just leaves. Gives everybody the big and off he goes. And because he was a very angry young man, he enlists in the Army. He's in the Army for a short time when it is discovered that he has some talents that could be of use in other places. And he gets recruited into this organization that I invented called Mother, which is, doesn't stand for anything. I tried. Anagrams were not my forte.
We
So
need to talk
it's
Cindy Cap.
yeah.
She's great at them. She really
So
is.
yeah, it's just it's kind of like Shield. Why does it say Shield? It's like because somebody wants it to spell Shield, and so I just wanted Mother, but I couldn't. So I just thought it would be funny that it's like all these operatives going, "Yes, Mother, yes, Mother."
Yeah. Or Mother called,
Mother called,
gave my credentials, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, yes, we got to fall into the line." I love that part.
Yeah.
I love that.
So it's determined. It's
Mhm.
that he has these skills and he is excellent. They teach him, and so technically he's in the army still, but he's not. He's never there. It's like one of those things where if people look for him, oh, he's out on this assignment, or oh, he's at the motor pool, or oh, we've sent him to. So he's out, and he has an affinity for becoming other people, going undercover and becoming other people. And when we meet him in the first book, that's what he's doing. He has been undercover for a little over 2 years when the series starts on this case, and it's not his first case undercover, but this particular case, he's trying to get dirt on a guy named Miguel Ortega, who is the head of this Ortega crime syndicate. And he has figured out, and this is all in chapter 1, so these are not big spoilers. This is the freebie chapter you can read on Amazon. He has discovered that Miguel Ortega is an alias, that whoever is at the head of the Ortega clan, has created this Miguel Ortega alias, and they have farmed it out. So there are 10 Miguel Ortegas. So which has caused great consternation for the authorities because there's no uniform description. What does Miguel Ortega look like? Well, he's 6 feet tall, weighs about 180 pounds, dark black hair. This one over here goes, no, he was 5'11", kind of pudgy, bald, and so he is on his way to meet, or he's meeting Ortega for the first time. When he gets there, Ortega steps off a plane on this small airfield in the South American jungle and calls Snow by his real name, not his undercover alias, which takes Snow a second to realize, wait, what did he say?
Yeah.
Which is about the time that Miguel Ortega shoots him and, leaves him for dead. And so, yes, he's left for dead on the runway at the end of chapter 1. So really the book ends there. He's been dead the whole time. It's all in this.
My book's all blank pages. Sorry to reveal it now, but
well, I told a friend of mine, I said, "Yep, I'm going to piss people off. I'm going to get to the last book of the series, and I'm going to say, yep, all this has been in his head while he's laying there dying."
Half your writers may come after you too.
Yeah, right. So I would not do that, but yeah, it's he's shot. He's left for dead. He does obviously survive. Mm-hmm. But that also allowed us to give him, there's a disability there. There is shrapnel 1/2 inch from his heart. That it doesn't constantly bother him. It's not a constant thing. But there are times, there are moments, in Snow Falls, he's chasing someone. And that's the moment that it decides to cause a problem. So his heart issue is a problem that can get in the way. But he also finds himself, this guy that couldn't wait to run away from home, has nowhere to go now, and is welcomed back like his grandfather. After he's in the hospital, his grandfather, who we later find out also used to in his younger days work for Mother. So there's a little and so his grandfather invites him to come stay with him, recuperate at his house, and which gets him reacquainted with friends he went to high school with and who have gone on and had lives of their own. Mm-hmm. And so so now he's surrounded by old friends and people he is reacquainting himself with. So on the one hand, he's trying to enter civilian life and lead a normal life. On the other hand, he wants to find this guy that almost killed him, mm-hmm. because he can't leave it unfinished. And so the first 6 books in the series, that's an overarching thing, is I've got to find the guy that shot me. We need to end this. I need to solve this problem. But he's also getting into other things because he can't just turn off that part of himself that was stopping criminals or doing these type of things, which gets him into other trouble. Mm-hmm. And so there's those two things are going on. And in book 6, which I'm writing now, it all will come to a head. And so the first 6 is one big story, but each book also is a standalone. I hate getting to the end of a book and reading to be continued.
Yeah.
So I make it a point to, in every story, the A plot gets a resolution.
Mm-hmm.
There may be things that carry over, and then I put a little epilogue that leads into the next book, hoping to tease people to come back and, for the next story. But so we're doing that with the first 6 books, and then going on 7, 8, 9, they won't be these big 6-book epics. It'll be, more standalone. But still, as it's an ongoing thing, there will be things that I might set them up and do it like that. But Snow is just he's just a good guy who, when he sees people in need, he likes to help them. And that's one of the things that happened so much with those characters in the 70s and 80s TV shows. They just wanted to help people, and they were, they would leap before they looked in many cases. And that's what Snow does. And he also, we also have the thing where he goes to work for his grandfather, who owns the security, who owns Snow Security. And so sometimes we can have a story that deals with, Snow, the security company sent him somewhere, and then we can just have some where he gets into trouble on his own. So, but he's a fun character. I love the character. He's, I've been very excited by the response from audiences, from the readers about the character. And as much as they love Snow, they really love Archer Snow, his grandfather.
He's cool.
Cool. I have already got the nothing better ever happened to Archer's, emails. So I do occasionally like to put Archer in danger. Just, but Archer is cool. Archer has been the standout. Like, I could probably kill off Snow tomorrow and rename it Archer Snow, and people would be fine. Because people love Archer, and so I love writing him too. So he's a lot of fun. He's not the grandfather I had, but he's a really cooler grandfather, and who doesn't mind shooting people, and
who wouldn't like a grandpa like that? I ask you. So now that we've sold you on it, definitely go to that address there and get your copy right now. And of course, Cindy Kep makes us look idiotic. Mother, military-oriented training for hazardous event resolution.
Let me just go ahead and screen capture that.
Yeah, I think you better, Bobby. You got
there we go. Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. So thank you, Cindy.
Well, thank you, Cindy.
Yeah, you're awesome. We'll see that you get a copy of the Snow book. Well,
that's so sad, because I would have never, because I'm trying to, and it's just nothing, I couldn't find anything that made all those words work, or all those letters work. So
yeah, I figured all the good acronyms were gone by the 60s, like Thunder and Undersea Agent and, things like that. So, Uncle, the United Network Command for Law and Enforcement. Oh my God, I still have my card, by the way, in laminated. I'm working for Section 1 under Napoleon Solo to this day. So that's the background I bring to the Snow stories. I
have a membership card where I'm one of the Shadows agents. So I understand.
Oh, you win, dude. That's awesome. Now, Teresa Dunn, I can leave for the next 10 minutes if you want me to, Bobby, for this question here. What encouraged you to collaborate with Brian K. Morris on this? And you can almost hear the tone of condescension. It's like, what in the world were you thinking, Bobby?
Well, I got this check in the mail.
It was Cookie. Cookie sent him a check saying, "Keep this idiot busy."
Yeah, Cookie's like, if you can just keep him out of my hair.
Yeah.
No, it like I said before, my first thought was work with people I know, work with writers I know, and that was really where it started. And I made a list. I didn't reach out to everybody at one time. I broke it up into stages, because I was like, my luck, I'll get 50 people say yes at one time. And and that'll kill me trying to, So
we'll all get it done at the same time.
Right. So my note thing here, with all this on it, has, phase 1, and it's a bunch of names. And so I believe you were written in phase 2. And And right, because basically it was just a big list, and then it's like, okay, we need to break this, And but the first and foremost thing was talented writers and people I knew. That was step one. Will I eventually open it up to more? Maybe. We'll see how it goes. We're still very early in the experimentation phase of this. We've just released the 99-cent ebooks. We'll see, once it goes to paper and collected, we'll see what it does. And I'm happy and content because, hey, I love these characters, and putting stuff out is awesome. So I'll do it as long as people want to.
Sure.
But there does become a business point at some point where you have to go, okay, we got to sell some books. So, but I started with people I knew, who I knew would do the work, because sometimes when you do anthology calls, there's always one or two that don't, that either disappear or they don't, deadlines whip past their heads, and hey, I'm guilty of that too. So, but yeah, I'm ashamed to say how far behind I am on one of my novel projects. But it becomes a thing, and it's but so like I said, and also reaching out to friends, I could do it, and I know it's all people I know are busy too, so I could say things like, it's kind of an open deadline. I'd like to do it monthly, so if a couple of you would like to do it quick, then we could, do that. Plus, I'm doing them too because from a selfish, business standpoint, as the creator of the character, when we do a collected edition, I want one of my stories to be in every one, because I figure when I'm at conventions and I've got books there, it's easier for me, because sometimes you sell books because you're talking to them.
Right.
If I'm in all of them, it's a little easier to push all the books. And so I'm trying to make it so I'm in every three. One of every three will be mine. So that's so sometimes we're waiting on me. And so, and the publisher hates that.
Yeah, I can only imagine the conversations between the two.
Yeah, but also in terms of doing this, it wasn't, step one was finding writers that know the craft and know are going to do the work. They're they've done work before. I don't think I'm offering anybody their first publishing credit here. And people I know, so that makes it a little easier to work with. But also, I tried to look at people that I know might get out and promote. Or, obviously you're mentioning it at the beginning of your shows, so that's promoting it. There's, different of ways that, it's getting the word out. And, as indie creators, and I think we all know this, because there's several of us, several other, creators in the chat here.
Right.
It's hard to get the word out,
It is.
And I mean, you are you're screaming into a hurricane sometimes. And so anything, and I'm a big believer in cross promoting and helping other people, and somebody got a new book out, great, let's tell the world. There's a phrase for that, rising something.
It's coming to me. It's coming to me.
Yeah. It's a true thing. Other me talking up other writers does not hurt me at all. And so, but I like the idea of working with people that will get out and talk the books up, and so that helped. And like I said, I knew it would be easier to get invites onto this show if Brian was writing a book for me.
That's true. And Bobby will be back on Friday morning show and Mondays and Wednesdays. No, in fact, welcome your new host to Never Mind the Furthermore.
Yes. No. You do too many early morning shows for me. There are some mornings I roll out of bed and pick up the phone and you're just going off, and I'm like, oh, hi.
Yeah, I've noticed that, and I understand. I get it. Because I'm a Patreon subscriber to Bobby, so definitely check out Patreon and check out what Bobby does. He's got something every day. I mean,
Snow Down, the 6th book, is actually being serialized on Patreon right now.
That's true. You can, and that inspired me actually on my Patreon to be doing the Terror based on the Black Terror comic.
Oh, I love the Black Terror.
Oh, I got to talk to you about what I'm doing with him. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
But so I love the idea of the serialized stories. I also, it helps me focus. It helps me because I've got to get that chapter done this week. And if I'm doing
Yes.
2, I've got to get 2 chapters done
Yeah.
while I'm doing this other stuff.
Mhm.
And so it does motivate me a little bit.
Mhm.
Plus, you know, for as little as $1 a month, you can get 2 serialized books at a time. Plus, you can go back and get the other ones that are finished.
Right.
And because Amazon just started this Kindle Vella thing, which is
Yeah, I saw
a
that.
serialized story
Mhm.
platform that they're charging more than $1 for.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
$1.99 to get, a book's worth.
Minimum.
And it's like for $1, you're getting a whole lot more, So
Yeah.
I'm trying to, so I figured if I was doing 2 at a time, that
Mhm.
might get some people that are interested in serialized storytelling.
Yeah.
It hasn't yet, but you still try.
Yeah.
And it's good for me. It helps me get motivated to finish those things
Mhm.
because I'm a deadline oriented guy. If it's, it's easy to go, I'll catch that tomorrow. But if I know, I've got to get this chapter online this
Yeah.
week,
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
will stay up a little later or work a little longer to get that finished. So it's helping me as a writer.
Mhm.
I assume that the patrons are enjoying it, and
Mhm.
I haven't heard anybody go, "Man, this sucks." So I mean, I take that as a good sign.
Yes.
I've had a few instances where I've gotten some feedback,
Mhm.
so that's good too. It's a good beta reader thing. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and so yeah, but it's fun. I enjoy doing that format too, and then once it's done, then you just kind of tweak it and edit it and all that before it becomes a book.
Yeah.
And so yeah, so fun stuff. I don't know how I got on that. Sorry.
Well, that's all right. That's all right. We like the divergence here. And speaking of the projects that I'm way behind in, playing in someone else's universe accurately can be tricky, Dr. Saga. And what's the biggest challenge of having people play in your universe?
uh the big thing I'm afraid of, the big thing that I'm afraid of is someone's going to pitch a story or write a story that contradicts something, or I've already got that planned for later. That's why in the Bible that I sent out to the writers, there were a couple of characters from the books not there that were not included because I
Mhm.
don't want anybody else messing with them.
Yeah.
Like the overall villain for the first 6 books.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
I
I don't
noticed
want
that.
anyone writing that character just because I'm doing book 6 now.
Right.
So you guys don't know what's going to happen to said character. And
Yeah.
so I didn't want to cause the potential conflict of oh, well, that's I can't do this story because it doesn't work.
Right.
So
Right.
there were things like that where it was like these things are off limits. These
Mhm.
are so there's that. And but again too, working with professionals, you know I knew that you guys would come in with stories that you could tell, and at the end of the day the characters are where they were when it started.
Mhm.
I because sometimes you get people that you know people that have done it for a while understand that you
Mhm.
can't break the toys unless you can put them back together. You
Right.
can't do life altering things. If Snow's going to have a kid,
Yeah.
I'll be the one that comes up with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
If Snow loses a parent,
Mhm.
that's my story to tell. I don't,
Right.
or it'll be me going, Brian, how would you like to, you know,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
kind of thing, because
Right.
those big type of life stories are fixed points in that
Mhm.
character's life.
Right.
You get married, that's a line on a calendar that says, this story takes place before Snow got married. This story takes place after
Mhm.
Snow got married. So you don't want to do stuff like that when you're just writing a short story that's not for your character.
Yeah.
So that's where the whole "don't blow up Cleveland" comes from. Or
Yeah.
I always use Star Trek as an example. I'm like,
Yeah.
look, you can write a Star Trek episode where Spock dies,
Mhm.
but at the end of that episode, Spock better be standing on the bridge as they warp off to their next adventure. Because
Yeah.
Star Trek's good about that, killing characters and bringing them back in the same episode.
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing with that. I've written other people's characters. Like, when I did the Green Hornet, it was like, I can't kill the Green Hornet. He can't lose an eye.
Right.
You know, you have to come up with stuff that fits the parameters of
Mhm.
those characters. So yeah, so the big challenge, the big fear is that they'll write something like that you can't use.
Mhm.
And you hate to be the one that goes, "Up, sorry, man, I can't." I love your story, but I can't.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
So you have to kind of weigh those. The biggest fear I have, and I've never said this aloud, is that they're going to write stuff better than mine.
So you got me and then knew you had no worries.
Yes.
Yeah, I get
Yeah.
that.
I'm going to read it and go, shit, they're writing this character better than me. And so
Yeah.
that's, it's one of those that little writer voice in your head that tells you you're stupid all the time. Yeah, that's the voice that whispers that to me. It's like, and, and so yeah. What's the Christopher Titus calls it in his stand-up act, your little moron. So my little moron is in my head, going, So, and then I got this guy here that keeps me that gives me shit. So
that's true. Yeah, Herbie. There's another acronym for you.
Yes.
Yeah, which I can't remember, fortunately.
That was money well spent. I've got my mileage out of Herbie posts.
Yeah, and Galactus too.
And Galactus is new. I just picked up the big G.
I see that.
And G, it's G for get to work. That's what the G stands for.
Get going.
Yeah. So they are my muses, and so I've gotten a lot of play out of taking photos of them because I have this little chalkboard, and I'll write them saying little things and put them in front of it, and so they're giving me crap.
Yeah.
About why I'm not getting any work done.
Yeah, I married my muse who does that to me. So
it's weird. I'm not writing because I'm playing with my toys, yelling at me for not writing. So,
and you're in the one environment, Bobby, where you can say that, and we're all going, "We understand. We understand." When we don't judge you. So,
but they do sit right here on the desk, and they stare at me. So yeah.
Yeah, I've got a 12-inch Superman and that does the same to me. And I've also as of today, I'll probably bring him on the show soon. I have a 12-inch He-Man from Masters of the Universe. Walmart's been selling these 12-inch Funko Pops.
Nice.
Yeah.
I have a few various things around. Like I'm not a big toy collector, but Funko does these little vinyls that are really cool. I have them. Here's just the one I could reach, but they're doing DC characters. And
those are lovely, yeah.
Yeah, so they've done like the Justice League, Batman villains, and stuff like that, and they're just really cool. So I've got those, and a couple of like sometimes I'll just find one that's really cool. Like I've got this one which is Jessica Jones kicking down a wall.
Oh, nice.
Things like that. So yeah, just there's a reason that my camera faces this way because that's the only section of my office clean, and because like on my desk, I create little snow, tchotchkes, and
that is so cool.
And I found Snow's car.
Oh,
and
awesome.
So and yes, as you can tell, they're just all stacked right here.
Yeah.
So, like if you guys were to, I don't know if I can do it justice, but it won't lift up. But
I refuse to show you guys my office.
Yeah.
This is about it.
I can't lift it up. There's stuff sitting on the cords, but the rest of the office is. I got books stacked everywhere. There's a stack of books right here. It's about yay tall. The bookshelf behind me is empty because I put the new bookshelf there and haven't put my books on it. So all my books that I've written are over here on a table. And got knocked off the other day, so they're in no particular order. So I gotta get. So there's a lot of that still needs to get fixed up, and I got the posters for the wall, but I've still got to get them framed. Right now they're just tacked to the wall, and the Let It Snow thing was one of those things I saw in a store and just had to buy.
Oh yeah.
So little things like that, and then up on the wall there's the couple of little canvas things I tried out with the Samaritan and Snow. The awards that I've won are here, like the Pulp Factory Awards and Pulp Arc, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's sorry, I'm trying to do this backwards. That's a sign from the In the Wind book of the plaque at the sheriff's office. So it's one of those where you just poke the letters in. But I have a badge that's up there attached to it that I can sometimes take photos with that. So
very cool.
Yes, little things like that, and then over here I've got I don't know how much of that you can see, but I've got like my do more, stay focused sign. My whiteboard with open projects. Mark Maddox Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Ooh, yeah.
And then the figures there are pretty cool too. That's a Boba Fett and a Destro figure.
Ooh, cool.
I had those when I was a kid. I wrote this. Jim Beard did a book about. Well, I did this panel at a convention called Toy Stories that my friend Dave put on. Dave, who runs the Needless Things podcast, dude, did this thing called Toy Stories.
Yeah.
And we talked about toys that impacted us as a kid and how we played with them. And I told this story about these two characters. Those were my two favorite toys that I owned because, you know, I was poor, so we didn't have a lot of of each. We just I had my handful. And so they never played who they were. They became other characters or characters I wanted them to be. And so these were my two favorites. So they were the ones I played with the most. And so the backstory that I wrote for these, because I guess I was a writer at an early age. Both Destro, who in the originals, Destro wasn't part of Cobra. He just worked for Cobra. He sold them stuff. Boba Fett did not work for the Empire. Excuse me, he was just a bounty hunter. I decided in my story that Destro and Boba Fett were just sick and tired of all the bad calls that the people they were working for were making. And so they team up, steal a shuttle, because I had a toy shuttle, and they fly the coop and they have adventures as bounty hunters.
Oh, nice.
That was what I did with them. And so now these are not the originals that I had. These were those long since destroyed. I remember I killed Destro. I would create little traps for him to be in. And my dad had one of these caulk guns, you know, where you pull the trigger and it goes.
Yeah.
Well, if you stand it on in and go, the roof's coming down. And I clicked it one time too many, and Destro went.
Oh no!
And so, but anyway, so long story short, I told this story. It went around like people. It kind of became a thing, and so Jim Beard was doing this book about GI Joe toys. And he asked me to reiterate that story in print. So I wrote the story for the book. And last year at Christmas, my buddy Jeff showed up here at the house, and he's like, "We got you a gift," and they went out and found a Boba Fett and a Destro for me because that was So so I don't have a lot of toys, but the ones I do usually have some kind of significance that way.
Very cool.
Sorry, that was another detour. Sorry.
That's why we love you, Bobby. That's why we love you, man.
That's why I can't have my own show. There'd be no topic. It'd be called Left Turn with Bobby Nash. Because
there we go. Well, you can make it work. I'll bring you into the network here, man. I'd pay to watch that thing. I shouldn't have said that. Yeah, what sort of ball doesn't bounce? A snowball. And Cindy Cap goes on. What do snow kids have for breakfast? Ice Krispies.
I have a list of snow something. Because, obviously with me for my main books, I use snow in all the titles.
Right.
And that was kind of one of those 80s throwbacks too. Like I remember Remington Steele, the old show, had steel in every title.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do that, And sometimes they don't work. Because the fourth book in my series is called Snow Trapped, which is basically a Die Hard ripoff. They're in a building.
Right.
Somebody's trying to rob something in the building and problems ensue.
That was a lot of fun.
So my first thought was I'll just play into the fact that it's Die Hard and go Snow Hard. Nope, can't do that. Because that's why right there. I could already hear the joke. So I said, okay, won't do that. So
what makes Brian giggle like a 6-year-old? Yeah, that's a good barometer.
There was one that I couldn't use. Like I thought of the Snow Job, and I was like, no, I can hear that joke too. So there's a few that are in the
Christian.
There's a few that have gone into the cannot use just for those reasons. But
that's why one of the hardest part of writing this book was coming up with a decent title. I wanted to use snow in the title, but I figure any joke you have heard already. So, it's like, I thought Snow Ambition, like you always hear about somebody having no ambition. So that was my play on words. That's as close to clever as I got with the whole thing. But anyway.
Yeah, I decided to be nice and not make it a mandate that everybody had to use snow. But if you want to, you're welcome to. So, so Gary didn't, and Nicole and Nicole did not. They chose other titles, but it's it's a challenge sometimes, and it's fun. I mean, I do
It
have
is.
fun coming up with, snow whatever and
Mhm.
making it work. And
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, and I kept pitching, I kept thinking, I've got to write one that's, snow, no business like snow business. But we
mhm,
talked about that. That would be an unwieldy logo.
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
because the originally book 5, I was calling it Snow Business because it does
Mhm.
deal with an actor, and so I thought of that. And then as I was writing it, in the book, they kept talking about that character, the actor, that she's a star. And so I ended up changing the title to Snow Star because I'll probably use Snow Business somewhere else.
Yeah.
And
That's cool. That's
yeah,
cool. Yeah. So
so I've got a list of them. Yeah, I can't
I
use
bet.
Snow Blown either, or Snow Blown. I can't use that one. You
Yeah.
know, but I've got a lot of good ones. And Pulp Reality 2's got a snow short in it that I wrote called Snow Chase.
Oh, nice.
So, you know,
Very cool.
yeah, so it's fun to come up with them and make them
Mhm.
work. And yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Very cool, very cool. Cindy Cap says, my first collaboration with another writer blew up like Krakatoa. I can see that. The second and third were more agreeable. Is there any concern about someone taking off with your IP and doing very unauthorized stuff?
No, I've never been worried about it. Again, in the instance of the people I'm reaching out to, I reached out to people I know.
Mhm.
So that was one, there was no fear of it. And I've never really been afraid of anybody stealing stuff
Mhm.
because ideas are a dime a dozen.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, you know, none of the plots, if you just look at the basic plot, none of the plots of any of my books am I the first person to have ever done that plot.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
they're plots are easy. The characters is kind of where you own it, but you know, again, somebody could come up with a similar kind of character to Snow. He's not, like I said, he's cobbled together from, there's a little bit of Jim Rockford in there,
Mhm.
there's a little bit of Magnum PI in there, there's a little of
Yeah.
this, a little of that.
Yeah.
So I've never really worried, especially, and once they're in print too, it's kind of like, well, the guy exists.
Mhm.
Um, the thing that I've run into has been more like publishers trying to run off with my stuff. And Snow was, because Snow did not originate in my publishing company.
Mhm.
Excuse me, I was contracted. There was this new company that was gearing up, and they were going to release ebooks only,
Mm.
and that's why they were 30,000 word short, novellas.
Right.
And I retained the print rights to the Snow books. That's where I came up with Snow 4. The
Mhm.
original idea I had for Snow in my head was a movie, or more likely, we were going to try to film it locally.
Mhm.
That's why it's set in a small town, and like the
Right.
one where I live.
Right.
And that was at the time when mini-sodes were all the rage, little 10-minute episodes.
Mhm.
And I thought of doing it that way. And so this was the idea. So I had the opening chapter of Snowfalls in my head. It wasn't called Snow at the time. He had a different name.
Mhm.
And so when the publisher came to me and says, hey, we're doing this, and a couple of writers recommended you to me, which is always very nice to hear.
Oh yeah.
And so I pitched him, I've got this idea. And so I pitched Snow, and they liked it. I wrote the first one. They put the first one out. I wrote the second one. I wrote the third one. Nothing was coming out. Then I noticed they weren't putting anything else out. And
Mhm.
so then I realized that, I'm not, nothing's happening. So I need my rights. So it became a little bit of a battle to get my rights back. It took 3 years
Mm.
for me to get them to release my rights.
Mhm.
So at that point, my options were, because doing little 30,000 word standalone novellas was not really a thing at the time.
Right.
So my options were to rewrite it into novels, which I kind of didn't want to do. I was liking this,
Mhm.
short novella, almost like a TV episode sized.
Yeah.
So I was liking that. So the decision to just do them myself came from that. And so it wasn't so much I was worried about other people taking it. I was worried about publishers, running off with it, or, because I couldn't get them to just give me my rights back. And
Right.
so
Right.
it took a while. It was a bit of a battle, but you know, I'm really happy, you know, and that's the other thing too with working with these writers, you know, you know, the writers know that, you know, unless you want to do a team up with one of your existing characters, we'll have to talk about that. But
Right.
you're basically doing work for hire, and so anything you write can get folded into the Snow Saga.
Mm-hmm.
And so saga, sounds so
I
so
like
big.
that.
Um,
I feel better
and
all of a sudden.
so you know, it's kind of like, you know, and there are other places that sometimes like you work around things, like when I worked for did the Captain Hawkland Lance Starr
Right.
team up, we worked an extra, so it's like, you know, you can't own Lance Starr because he's already in these other places, but we can do something with. So yeah, so I'm never worried about people going, ooh, I'm going to steal this character, because let's face it, if you're going to steal something that's making more money than this.
Yeah.
You know, trust me on that. I would like, these things don't make me enough money. I'd be really upset if someone stole it, put it out, and made more money than me. That would really just put me over the edge.
Yeah. I can
But
imagine.
yeah, but no, I've never really, like I said, I've never been worried about it. I'm careful too before stuff's published about how much I say. I mean, you've probably been at conventions before, Brian, where someone comes up to you and spends 20 minutes telling you every detail of their book that they haven't written yet.
La 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 la.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Seriously.
I'm like, you know, it's like I don't want to hear this, because
Yeah.
I don't want you to come think I stole something 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, fortunately,
while you're spitting out all this stuff I'm only half listening to anyway.
Yeah. Fortunately, every time it's only happened to me a few times, because I've cut them off, saying I really can't listen to this for various legal reasons, and most people get that. But there's always somebody that wants to dictate their magnum opus to you, and fortunately, everyone who's done that, I have no desire to take their story. It's like, okay, you could leave your idea for this story, not to be critical, but you could put it in the middle of a parking lot with $100 bill taped to it, and nobody's going to take it. So don't worry.
I do get people coming up to me a lot too, going, okay, snow fight. Here's what, or you know, have you thought about snow? You know, so I get that a lot. I do get that a lot. That's, you know, hey, you know what? People care enough. You know, that's awesome.
It is good. It is good.
But yeah, so it's you know, and I'm thrilled too by the number of people that said yes when I said, hey, would you like to write a short story? Because, you know, when you were talking about fears earlier, when Cindy was asking about fears, the big fear is everybody would say, no, why would I want to do that?
Yeah.
Your character sucks, man. I don't want to write that. That's and again, that's that inner your inner moron talking to you.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome thing.
Yeah. So the fact that so many writers, and I think I've got, I don't know the exact number, but it's over 12. Like I have more than enough. If everybody says they would do it, that I could do 2 years worth off the people that have said yes already.
That's great. That's great. And I know I was thrilled to be asked, to be honest. So.
Oh, well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, well, you know, it's like I said, it's one of those things. It's cool. Yeah. Anytime someone comes, you know, because there was a point in my career, especially in the early days, where you're always submitting or trying to, get. I don't know what it is about being on a podcast makes me want to belch more than any time of the day. Like I never belch, and then sorry.
Yeah. There's something about me that inspires people to belch.
Well, it's not just you. It's pretty much any interview I do. It's like I keep doing this, but there was a time in my career where all I did was, hey, let me pitch you this, let me pitch you that, and you're getting told no and no and no and no.
Yeah.
The fact that now, all these many years later, publishers will sometimes email me and go, hey, you want to write, and they'll throw something out, and that's awesome. You know, that you've done something to where people recognize, I guess, that you would be a good fit for their book,
right? Yeah.
Or, you know, or they just would like to work with you because they know you.
Exactly.
That's always awesome. So and like I said, I've been doing this a while, and so I've gotten to, especially in the indie and the pulp side of things, I've gotten to know a lot of writers and creators and publishers, and and there's a lot of wonderful people telling some just truly amazing stories. And so being invited, the only downside is I have to say no so many times because I just don't have enough hours in the day.
Yeah.
And which is hard. Or pretty much now my first thing is, do you want to write? And I'm like, can you wait 6 months?
Yeah.
It's because I'm because you're booking out, it's just, trying to keep busy. You don't finish a job, then look for the next one.
Right.
You're constantly stacking them for.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that I'm trying to give Ben Books a bit more of a go, there's a lot of that slotted there. Because used to, Ben Book stuff would get slotted around other publishers. And I don't do that anymore. Now it's like Snow 6 is going to be done in May. It's going to be done in May.
Yep.
If something comes in, you have to go after it. Right. And so those are the types of things you have to, again, the business side of things that, like if I'd have known that doing this, that being a writer meant being a small business owner, I would have taken more business classes in college.
Yeah.
Because, I am not I obviously I've seen my books. I am not a great businessman. So, but I'm constantly learning. I'm learning new things, and just like all of it, I mean, I'm not professionally trained to sell books or do advertising or promotions, or I'm not even professionally trained to write. I am pretty much self-taught on everything I do. So my life is a constant learning experience. And so I'm all the time, talking with other creators, we're going like, oh, I tried this. Did this work for you? Or, have you done this? And, seeing what works and what doesn't. And because as an indie creator, I have to promote straight to readers. I'm not promoting to bookstores because bookstores are not going to carry my stuff. So, how do I reach readers? So these are thoughts that fill a lot of my day, going what works, what doesn't. And because it is tough getting to readers. I mean, my books are on the platforms like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, et cetera, but I still you're a drop in an ocean. You have to get, people have to find you still. So trying to find ways to get people to find it and buy it helps, or buy them directly from me if you want autographed copies, setting up a store, doing the things that I try to, and you try to do it where there's added value if you buy stuff from me. Like, I don't know if you guys notice, I post on social media where I draw envelopes.
I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a little bonus.
Yeah.
But it's a promotion opportunity because I can share that piece of art and say, hey, I sold a book. I'm sending it in the mail. Here's this piece of art. Want your own? Here's the link, And then, plus, I haven't heard anybody complain about getting me drawing on their envelopes.
Right.
And I've had a few people, especially if it's somebody I know or I can see that they're a fan of whatever. I try to draw something I know they're a fan of. Nice. Sometimes I don't know, so but some people you do. And so that I try to, make it fit to, to whatever they're fans of. So
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I hope that answered Cindy's question.
I think it did. I think he nailed it. And Cindy asked, "What do snowmen have for breakfast? Snowflakes." And also, what do snowmen like on their burgers? Chili sauce. There we go. And if you like that name, chili, pick up Snow Ambition.
Yes.
And Cindy Cap asks, "Do you keep up with a timeline of whose stories came when?" Now, I deliberately put when my story took place.
Right. So far, I kind of have a timeline of where I think some of them fit. Some of them haven't had dates that have, this, like you were the only one so far that said this takes place before this. And so, so I know yours takes place here. Right. Others, are a little more flexible, but I also try to go, okay, well, they're certainly going to happen before any books I haven't written yet.
Right.
So, stuff like that. I kind of have an idea of where things are going and when they're happening. And plus with these snow shorts, we can tell stories out of order. We can tell, one of the ideas that was given to me for a story was seeing Archer Snow in an adventure in the 80s when he was a younger man.
Ooh, nice.
So I'm like, well, that's cool. You do it,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
There's been talk of maybe doing a story with Snow undercover
Mm-hmm.
before the book one starts. I'm totally fine with that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I'm doing one. I haven't started it yet, but I've got the plot where Mac is going to get called because he's an FBI agent. He's going to get called out to help with something where he's going to reunite with U.S. Deputy Marshal William Teague, who they met in the Wind. So
Mm-hmm.
obviously that story will take place after in the Wind, and
Nice.
so things like that. So there's different time periods, but it could certainly be, you know, Snow's gone for a good 12-year period.
Yeah.
Like if
Yeah.
we could do Mac stories or uh, you know, Big John or Archer stories or
Mm-hmm.
whatever that take place during that time frame that Snow's not even there. You don't have
Yeah.
to mention him, you know. So we have options. So of where to slot these things.
Yeah, and
So
that's a nice thing. You've got such a rich cast of characters
mhm.
in your stories. You know, they're all strong. You know, the original drafts or plots, I should say, when I was still in the plotting phase for my book, I didn't have Mac in there. I just wanted Snow in there because I
Mhm.
wanted to isolate him. But I realized that there were things that had to happen. I needed someone who could be that guy.
Right,
And
right.
so then I brought in Mac, and I just had so much fun writing Mac because I love the relationship
Yeah. They're
between
back
the
and
two.
forth. They're they're
Yeah,
they're back and forth is very brotherly,
it is.
you
Yes.
know.
Yeah.
Because these were guys that the three of them and Mac and Big John were not the best of buds because
Hmm.
they were different enough, but you know, they were friends growing up. So and how quickly they all fell back into that,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. And you know, Mac was more of a wild child as a kid. So, you know, Snow is like bamboozled when he gets home and finds out that Mac has become an FBI agent.
Yeah.
Now, granted, the fact that he comes from a family, like his grandfather's high up in the FBI, but
Right.
um, which is in another story. That happened completely and totally by accident. I'm gonna tell a behind the scenes author story here.
All right. Let's have it.
Okay, so Tom McClellan,
Hmm.
isn't it? He grew up in Somersville. He was a bit of a wild child. He becomes an FBI agent.
Hmm.
He's a very suave, smart dresser,
Hmm.
uh, close cropped hair. He's an African American man. He's very, very close cropped hair, but suave. He's a guy that you would see in like an expensive suit,
Hmm.
tie, slick. So I wrote, I wrote this character, come up with the name. He's in the books. When I started work again on Evil Intent, now
Hmm.
I started Evil Intent right after I finished Evil Ways, but I put it on hold for various reasons.
Hmm.
So after a while, you forget details. And so I reread it. I started working on it again. We're releasing it serialized. There is a character in the FBI who is one of the top guys. His last name is McClellan. Obviously, it's just a name that it stuck with me.
Right.
And so instead of changing it, because I started to just change it because that hadn't come out yet. And I was like, screw it. That's his grandfather. And and now it's a bit that, you know, he mentions like, you know, there's a mention of a grandson that's in the bureau
Hmm.
and a couple of cousins. Like it's that the McClellan family is, you know, like FBI. It's like all of them are in it except Mac's dad. Mac's dad was the one guy that said not for me, and so it's just one of those little it's something I did for me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I've done that a few other times, like in Evil Ways and Evil Intent. Harold Palmer and his brother Franklin are the two main, you know, protagonists in the Lance Starr stories and a couple of the pulp stories that take place in the 40s and 50s.
Hmm.
There's a G-man named Agent Palmer, which is their grandfather.
Hmm.
Now, if I don't tell you that, nobody knows it,
Right.
but I know it, and I've told
Yeah.
people
That's
it's like
enough.
that. You know, yes, their grandfather knew Lance Starr, so now those are all one big universe. You know,
I love it.
yeah.
I
So
love it.
those are just little fun things that we like to do and
Hmm.
play with. Like all those years I was writing pulp stuff for various publishers
Hmm.
because you know there were several different publishers I worked for.
Right.
I created because you know pulp characters fight mobsters a
Hmm.
lot,
Hmm.
so I created a mob family. Then I created another mob family, and then I needed another mobster, and I was about to create a new one. I'm like, I've already got like 4 or 5 mobsters, so I
Yeah.
just started reusing them.
Yeah.
And so then I get this idea. There's a mob war going on between these three families.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm working it into all of these stories
nice.
out of order.
Yeah.
Because because like I did this one story for this publisher that takes place in the 1930s.
Mm-hmm.
I did this one over here. It takes place in the 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I wrote a Secret Agent X. It was a comic book where this bad guy was turning state's evidence. This mobster was turning state's evidence. Secret Agent X has doubled him because he would mask, and he doubled this guy so that they don't know he's testifying.
Mm-hmm.
But the word gets out that he's turned rat, so they come try to kill Secret Agent X thinking he's that guy.
Right.
Okay, so I wrote that. Right, that story, little story, cool story. Wrote it, fun. 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 years later, I wrote the second Rick Ruby story, where it's about a prostitution ring in the 1940s, and that's where that guy gets arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, 10 years after we see him turning state's evidence, we see how he gets arrested.
Nice.
And it wasn't anything planned. It's just I need someone to arrest here. Oh wait, I got somebody we arrested. And so now in my head now I've got this long timeline. Cindy asked about timelines earlier. I have this timeline of the mob war.
Right.
Well, in Snowstorm, the second book, we find out who won, because only one of those families is still around in the 21st century.
Right.
So we find out which family wins. But it's one of those things. If you don't have to have read all that to understand the stories, but if you have read them all, there's a few, I see what's going on there. Or, I've done it with a few other side characters too, where we've met this character at like 4 or 5 different points of their life.
Right.
Just because I'm in different eras and I need a secondary character, or just even a side, like they're in it for one scene and I reuse characters, and it's fun for me.
Yeah. And you gotta do some stuff for you, when you're writing this stuff. I get it.
So it's stuff like that. It's a lot of stuff to play with and keep those kind of things going. And it kind of makes everything's a bit connected, and it's fun for those that do read a lot.
Oh yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And Cindy is cheering me on. Yay, Cindy. Thank you, darling. Also, check out Kickstarter for Animal Eye $1, Cindy's first comic book. It's awesome. Yeah. And she's doing good.
Welcome to the Nut House.
There you go. Yeah, she's $15 away from $2,000. So folks, please go to Kickstarter and pledge today for that. And what do you call a snowman on rollerblades? A snowmobile. Or snowmobile would it be, I guess? Okay.
Yeah. In Pulp Reality 2, there's a story called Snow Chase that does start out with Snow chasing someone on a snowmobile.
Oh, that's great.
Actually, and if you see the art that Clayton Merwin did for that story, I think he's posted on Facebook. It's snow on a snowmobile in his art. So it's
very cool. Very cool. And is Snow a hero or an anti-hero?
Oh, he's a hero. He's a hero.
Totally a hero.
He's a good guy. He cares. Which is probably what gets him into trouble so much, is he can't just walk away from troubles. And like the whole snowstorm is because he witnessed something and it's like, I can't let that go. Like these guys tried to kidnap someone, and he's just happens to witness it, and I can't let that go, and he gets in the middle of it. Or he just he gets in a lot of trouble just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or seeing something that's wrong or needs to be fixed, and he, and his friends are like, you just need to calm down. And it's like, no, this is wrong. We got to solve it. And so he does get himself into situations a lot of time just because he is that guy.
Yeah.
Now, having said that,
yes,
before his career as an undercover operative, he had to do some very anti-heroic things. Even though that's not him now, there are bits of him that can still go, I might have to do this. He's not afraid of shooting people. He has, he tries not to kill people. And plus, as a writer too, I realized, someone told me once, she's like, I just realized that someone dies in everything you write. And I was like, no. And I went back and looked, and sure enough, someone dies and everything all right.
Right.
And so I made it a point for a short time there to not kill some people.
Yeah.
But especially in today's climate, the thought of, like, in one story, it was like, if I'd have written this one story that and I'm trying not to say which one because I don't want to spoil anything, but if I'd have written this one story 10 years ago, at the end of it, the hero would have killed the villain. Because there's a situation there where that's just, they're fighting and it's, and the hero's losing, and because he's outmatched and all this, and 10 years ago that would have required, he would have killed the guy. The hero would have killed the guy. I made a conscious decision, doing it in the last few years, not to kill that guy. The villain, you can put a whooping on him, you can, you heard it, you all this or whatever you need to take him down. But I made it a point, and it became a great bit for the hero character because he wants to kill him. I mean, this guy's done some bad stuff, and the thought is, I could kill you, but I'm going to arrest you instead.
Yeah.
Because I think that might be more beneficial, because you're working for bad people, and now you can turn on them, and we can. So I made it a point to try to. I still kill people. People get killed. That's not going to change in my stories.
Right.
But I'm trying to make a more conscious effort to not do it all the time. Plus, I realized if I don't kill this guy, he can come back later for revenge.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. Yeah.
And so, or something like that can, so I'm trying to look at things, because a lot of my earlier stuff, having those action movies as or action books as a kind of a source guide. That's how it worked. I mean, at the end of Die Hard, you shoot Hans Gruber, and throw him out of a building. That's just what they did.
Yeah.
So, and these kind of fitting that mold of action, so, that was just in my head. That's what happens. You kill the bad guy at the end.
Yeah.
And so as I've gotten older, I still love killing people, but it's I don't kill them willy-nilly now, if that makes any sense. I want it to mean something, that, and so the decision to not kill every villain has worked in my favor, I think, because I've been able to bring some back. And sometimes you kill characters that you didn't intend to. I probably have told this one before. I had books 1 through 6 of Snow mapped out. Something happens at the end of book 3 that totally changes everything else, because I killed a character I shouldn't have, or hadn't intended to. Not say I shouldn't have. It made the story better, that character dying.
It really did. Yeah.
But it changed everything going forward. For the better, but it was frustrating for me, the author. And so I'm not afraid of killing characters. I just try to go at it with a little more thought now, not just shoot them. Yeah.
Well, that was kind of a challenge for me, writing the book I did, and why I placed it as following number 5. Because I realized it would be more fun to write the story knowing more than Snow does. Because he doesn't know what happened. I think it was in book 5 with Boom.
Oh no, that happens. He finds that out in book 4.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's just the idea that I knew more than Snow did about the situation, and he's still operating on information he had, which is not exactly accurate now. And I also go by the old thing. Steve Gerber wrote a limited run. It was a 4-issue series called The Phantom Zone for DC Comics. And there is a beautiful line in there where Jax Ur is taunting Superman at the end of the story, saying, well, you can't kill me. I know you want to, but you can't kill me. And Superman just grabs him by the front of the shirt and just starts wailing on him. And the line is, just because I can't take your life doesn't mean I can't beat you to within an inch of it. And I'm thinking, that's a better punishment than killing them outright.
Yeah. And there have been times where, in books too, but the ones that stand out in my memory is, like, there have been TV shows where it's that one time your stalwart hero does something that, if they were any other character, would make them a villain.
Yeah.
Like there's one episode of Magnum PI where he commits cold-blooded murder. This guy has this guy had tortured and brainwashed his friend,
Right.
had killed another friend. I mean, there's a lot there, and the guy gets away with it.
Yeah.
Like he can't, because he was from another government, and so he was protected.
Right.
And at the end of it, he's been told, they told him, you have to leave the United States and don't come back.
Right.
And Magnum's like, for everything he did, that's just not good enough.
Right.
And so they set a little ambush for the guy. They take him out of the car. He walks him into the woods, and they're talking. And and he's got a gun on him, but the bad guy is cool as a cucumber because he knows the guy, because he had tortured him too when they were in the war. And he goes, I know you. If I had a gun, you would kill me, no problem. But I'm unarmed. I'm not threatening you, and I know you. Your moral code will not allow you to do this. And he turns and he walks away from Magnum. And the last shot of the episode is Magnum turns around and says something to him and pulls the trigger. And it actually ends with boom,
Yeah.
And I've
remember that.
Things like that. He didn't become a bad guy in that instance, but it's one of those anti-hero hero moments that we were talking about. So your hero can be a hero 99 times out of 100, and at one time something bad enough happens that makes them the anti-hero. And so I love playing with that with characters. So if I get to know the characters, we're not all good or bad 100% of the time.
Right.
I might be a good guy, but I may still not like this guy, and I talk about him, or there's different things like that. So people are very nuanced and layered, and so I want my characters to be nuanced and layered. The trick is I have to remember what those layers are, and that's where we run into problems. So
yeah. Oh, let's see. Cindy Kemp asks, what do you get if you cross a snowman and a shark? Frostbite. And
I have a loose plot that does involve snow and a shark. It's not called frost. It's called Snow Dive, but it's on the list.
And there's a tornado that comes through it. No, never mind. That's something else. Cindy Kemp would like to know, what is the most interesting thing you've ever researched?
Very cool. I got to spend a day with the FBI.
Ooh, yeah.
That was awesome. They were wonderful. I was working. I do some acting and some background stuff around the area. And it's been a few years ago now. Kevin Bacon had that show called The Following.
Right.
Well, they filmed the pilot here. And then they moved the rest of the show to New York, but they filmed the pilot here. And so I worked on that for 3 days playing an FBI agent. It's great. I was in a suit and tie, had the chain with my badge around had a gun on my hip the whole time.
Nice.
Which was awesome when I walked into a store down the street to get something to drink and still had the gun and forgot.
Oh, shit.
But I had the badge, so they didn't bat an eye. Thank God. So anyway, I worked on this for 3 days playing an FBI agent. The first 2 days we were in the command center doing all our thing, blah, blah, blah. I was invited. I was one of a handful of people invited back for continuity to go to the suspect's house and kick the doors in and all that stuff.
Nice.
And so when we did that, there was a real life FBI agent on set. And so we were in the midst of between takes, and we were all just kind of milling around. So I went over and I spoke to him. And I mentioned, I'm an author. I wrote this novel, Evil Ways, about an FBI agent. I would love to ask you some questions. And so he gives me a card and he says, contact this person, because you can't just talk to the FBI. You have to
go through channels.
You have to go through channels. They run the background check on you. They're gonna So I did the whole, I contacted them. I was actually at a convention in Memphis, Tennessee, when I got the call from the FBI. And I remember it was Agent Birdsong. That was her name. I love her because I love that name. I'm going to use that somewhere.
Yeah.
And she, told me my background check had been proved and that you can go visit on this date at this time. They will give you an hour. I'm like, okay. So I thanked her, went to my appointment, confirmed my appointment with him, went down for the meeting. I was there like 6 hours. It was awesome. We had a great conversation.
Yeah.
He gave me a lot of literature and stuff like that. And I asked a lot of story specific questions, took the tour. It's an office building, but they have a trophy room like Batman. They have a trophy room, where they put bombs back together.
Oh,
You
nice.
know, like the
Yeah.
Olympic Park bomb. You know, they put it back
Oh,
together to see how it works.
oh
It
yeah.
was there. You
Wow.
know, the one of the signs, it was ripped up. A bunch of just different things. You
Yeah.
know, that they've.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. And then, you know, so we always ask him some story specific questions for
Mhm.
evil intent, and
Right.
you know, and so I was like, well, he gets, you know, spoiler alert, at the end of Evil Ways, he gets shot, and I'm curious what happens when you get shot. And he said, oh, well, let me tell you a story. And then he proceeds to tell me about how he was on an operation where he got shot and what
Mm.
happened. And man, I'm jotting notes like crazy, you know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
most of that went into the book.
Mhm.
And so it was amazing. And so I was able to spend a day with them. That was wonderful. It was a
Mhm.
very exciting, just fun day to go
Yeah.
and talk to these guys that do a very dangerous job, because I got to go talk to some of the guys on the task force.
Mm.
He says, I'll take you up there. You can talk. Don't tell them you're a writer. I'm like, why?
Oh,
He says, because you're going to say writer. They're going to hear reporter and they're
uh-huh.
not going to talk. I'm like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
So we went up and I talked to some task force guys and see how, you know, what it's like being on it. Because, you know, task force is made up of multiple agencies.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you may be an Atlanta PD officer, but you're loaned out to the FBI for 6 months to a year. So there
Mhm.
was a lot of interesting, you know, stuff I
Yeah.
learned doing that, and that was fun. Um, and and probably the weirdest, and it was not something we did. I
Yeah.
was at a small con. It was Jordan Con. We were in Atlanta. I was at John Hartness's table, and
Mhm.
me, John Hartness, and Andrea Judy were all standing there just chit chatting, you know.
Mhm.
And this guy comes up to the table, and so Andrea and I kind of step out of the way, and so I don't even remember how it came up, but in the process of, I guess he heard us talking before he stopped at the table, and because we were talking about stuff with books and, you know, dead bodies as we do, you know, and he goes, oh yeah, you guys were talking about dead bodies. He goes, I'm a forensic photographer. I'm the guy they bring out to take pictures of the dead bodies. And
Uh-huh.
so suddenly we stop, and like he is the center of attention, and say,
Yeah.
we have questions. And
Yeah.
I remember it was so funny because John goes, what do they smell like? And that was how it started. And so it was, so
Yeah.
people love to talk about what they do.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, as a writer, if you've ever had an interest in anything,
Mhm.
reach out. Most people, I've never had anybody say, I don't want to talk about, you know, last year I was supposed to go visit a medical examiner,
Mm.
but
Oh,
obviously
yeah.
COVID had put the kibosh on that.
Right.
But yeah, so something like that is fun. You get to just, it's just, it makes it more real to me,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
as a writer of how that goes. But yeah, those were probably the two most interesting ones. I have talked with SWAT team guys and Secret Service agents and
Mhm.
doctors and lawyers. I have a writer friend who's a judge, you know, so
Yeah.
I have friends that are retired detectives, or some, no, some not already retired, but
Mhm.
you know, Paul Bishop knows everything there is to know about interrogating suspects, you know, from his years as an
Mhm.
interrogator for the LAPD. He
Right.
knows how, you know, so I've met and talked to so many people that if I ever get into a situation where I need to know, I have people I can call.
Right.
And that's wonderful. It's just, it's so much fun, and
Yeah.
you get to tour places, and you
Mhm.
know, that's, yeah, it's just it's a perk to the job.
Yeah, and especially in law enforcement, a lot of guys, you know, because I've met like our local police force,
Mm,
many people on there, and had some conversations like you've had. The best way if you want to talk to somebody is say, "I want to get what you do right."
hmm
Because like I took a couple courses with the local police here, and they talk about how they hate the show CSI with a white hot passion because it has given the public the idea that all crimes are solved in 45 minutes and that every crime, how do you put it? Every crime scene is awash in perfect fingerprints, DNA, and semen. You
hmm
know, and it's just
Yes,
not like that in real life.
I have been told that that they hate this phrase, especially
Yeah.
zoom and enhance,
Oh, yeah.
because you can take, they're looking at this really grainy photograph,
Yeah.
they zoom in and it's crystal clear, and they're like,
Yes.
that's not how that works.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so there's a lot of that kind of stuff, and you know, I mean, sometimes we have to. shorthand things for in
Right.
a story.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's because there's a lot of things that we've learned over the years are not true that TV and movie still does. They still shoot locks with guns,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
so it is a shorthand the audience has understood in some cases,
Mhm. Mhm.
but yeah, for a lot of stuff, it's you try to you just have to work it away. It's like where you can't. Yeah, you never go to trial the same week you've arrested someone, but Law
Yeah.
and Order seems to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Every week. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. And Glenn B. Fleming, glad to see you, brother. Brian and Bobby on the same show. Outstanding. Well, we're glad you're here, making it even more so. And let's see. Here we go. We're going to go back to some other stuff here. Cindy Cap had some good questions here. Also, some jokes like, great jokes like, what do you get when you cross a snowman and a baker? Frosty the Dough Man. And what kind of dog do snowmen have? Slush puppies. That is funny. Now here we go. Now here's the way Cindy thinks, and I love her for it. Which Muppet would play Snow?
Ooh. That's a good one. There's a part of me that wants to say animal so bad, but nah, it probably wouldn't be.
Oh no.
He's not quite that crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a little bit of because Snow is a little bit silly, so there's a little bit of Fozzie in Snow, but also there's a little bit of that Kermit manicness,
Yeah. Yeah.
this again, but I'm always partial to, and I don't know the name of the Muppet, unfortunately, but I'm kind of partial to the guy that goes Menomina a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Because he's just so. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
he's so into it, and he realizes the people around him are like going like, no.
Yeah. And now Cindy kept asking, what does Snow carry in his pockets? Now that's an excellent question. That's something to think about with characters.
Yep,
It really
yep.
is.
He's got the keys to the car.
Mhm.
His grandfather Archer is a wealthy guy, and Archer collects cars. And when Snow came back, Snow needed a car, so Archer gives him a car. It's on the poster too. Jeffrey drew a nice picture of it on the poster.
Oh yeah.
Oops, sorry, there it is on the poster.
Nice. Yeah, sweet.
And
Plasma Art
so
Graphics.
there you go. When the look of your book matters to you.
There you go. See, you got it.
I keep wanting to say project, but book works. Yeah.
I worked hard
so
on that.
definitely his keys in his wallet.
Mhm.
I imagine too he carries a guitar pick with him, because one of the things he gave up when he left, when he was a kid, he liked to play the guitar. He wasn't overly good at it, but he was learning.
Right.
Going undercover, one of the first things they tell you is you have to divorce yourself from things that you liked before, because they don't want anything that could, sometimes they don't want stuff that can fly back on you. So he gave it up. He gave up playing the guitar. So when he comes back home, that's one of the first things he tries to pick back up. And so he always has the pick in his pocket to remind him that this is still something this is unfinished business. There's also, so those are the things he carries in his pocket. He doesn't really carry a lot else. Probably he's got to have a cell phone somewhere, either in his shirt pocket or his pants pocket.
Right.
And he's got a medic alert, because he's got heart problems. He's going to have the medic alert thing, which he may not always wear. Sometimes he keeps it in his pocket because he doesn't take care of himself as much as he should. He keeps getting reminded. He keeps getting reminded. You're not supposed to be doing this stuff. Your doctor told you to take it easy. Tackling a man down a flight of stairs is not taking it easy.
Right.
Fighting hitman who rammed your car is not taking it easy. And so those are the things he would carry with him. He used to carry a comb when he was younger, but one of the things we have about him when I was a kid, I still kind of do. My hair never stayed combed, and I liked that. It's a character trait, and so his hair is constantly. And so he's given up on trying to comb it. It's just like, yeah.
I love that about the character, and that's one of the things I wanted desperately to incorporate into my story.
Well, because you have a bit where that's how he describes him. Look for the guy with the weird hair or something like that. Yeah, weird hair, can't miss him.
Exactly. Yeah. Little Cindy Kemp has a question for me, Brian. How would Snow solve the problem in the story with a bucket? Wow. He's got multiple problems in this one. But the only thing I could do is, wow, that's an excellent question. Probably, if he had it with him in the Indianapolis airport, put it over the guy's head and jam the handle under his chin, and then run for the gate as fast as he could. That might be it. There's also some people he could probably brain with that bucket, but one of the things I wanted to do was put him in a position where he had no weaponry, nothing to back him up, and I allow myself one coincidence per story once the thing rolls, and the one coincidence got him in even worse trouble. So I was trying to write it was in the back of my mind, but more or less like a Donald E. Westlake story from the early 70s, where no matter what the protagonist did, it just wound up it just could not work out for him. And it wound up getting him in deeper crap all the time. Yeah. So,
and that's one of those things too. I played with, because you said partly it took place before this, which worked because in Snow Star, I kind of do the same thing because he's dating his old high school sweetheart again. They reconnected. Well, she's become fairly famous as an actress. When they can't go out together anywhere where photographers are going to be taking photos because he's supposed to be dead.
Yes.
Because his alias died. So people that don't know that there are people out there that still just think he's James Shepard and he's dead. And which is kind of what you played with a little, and it's it's a thing where you don't expect to. You're hoping you never run into anybody from those days, but it could happen. I mean, I see that. We've gone on vacation before. We used to laugh when I was a kid. No matter wherever we went on vacation, we would go somewhere, and my dad would run into someone he knew.
Yeah.
It never failed. It became a running joke for years. I was like, we can't take him anywhere because we would run into people, 4 states away. Because he worked for General Motors, so there was a ton of them. And they didn't all live where they worked. A lot of them lived in other states, and they would come down, work the week, and go home. And so it never failed. If we were, we would travel somewhere, and sure enough, someone would shout, "Hey, RO," from across the parking lot, and and we would just be like, "Oh,
not again."
And so my mom would be like, "Can't take him anywhere."
Yeah.
So it really happened. So yes, it is a coincidence, but it's a plausible coincidence.
Yeah.
And I thought you handled it well too. And I really liked, again, it plays into that Snow just going, the first moment he hears somebody call his name, his alias name, it's like, oh, it's just, I just want to get on the plane.
Yeah. And I can't.
Yeah. And then even when he extricates himself from the situation, he's like, damn it, I can't just leave this alone. And but that goes back to the heart of the character. That's who the guy is.
Yeah.
And I thought you played that beautifully. And his frustration, of having to deal with, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to put up with this. I don't really like this guy. So yeah, but that goes to his character, that he's going through all this for a guy he doesn't like, who is causing him nothing but trouble. And I love that. And I thought it was a fun story. It's a very action-packed story.
Thank you.
And I've not written anything that takes place in Indianapolis. So there you go.
There we go. Well, I live an hour from Indianapolis, so right what you know, right? And also, folks, don't forget, if you want a copy of Snow Ambition by myself, inspired by Bobby Nash,
only 99 cents.
Only 99 cents. Seriously, if you got a Kindle or any sort of reading device, you can download it. You can read it on your laptop, your computer, wherever. And I will sign your laptop. That's the kind of guy I am. And Cindy Kemp had a hardware crash. Oh no, but you're back until it goes again. Oh, be careful, please. And acronyms are fun. I came up with some cool ones for her new book, Freelance Words. And this is, like my first book here. See?
Ah, very nice.
Yeah. So Cindy is taking it and running with it wonderfully. So sign up for her Patreon and you'll get to read installments of it. And Eric, the the Captain Eric Pornsax Hawkins is now, and so Brian was Brian a talented writer or B someone you knew?
C.
See, yeah. There's a reason why I'm on the second cut. All the good writers, that could do it did, and the ones who couldn't do it. So he needed someone to fill that extra spot. So here I am. Brian will do it.
But you know what?
I'm like Mikey of writing. Yeah. I'll write anything.
But in all honesty, I like your work, and I knew you would finish it. And in publishing, man, that's two great things in any writer's favor.
Oh yeah,
that you write well and you'll finish, because there's a lot of writers that can't do both.
Exactly.
And so
that's gotten me a lot of work, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
There's a lot of things that go into getting, especially if you're working for publishers. There's a lot of things that go into getting hired. I remember I got hired for an anthology once, and they were doing open calls, but they came to me and they said, "You've got a slot if you want it." And I'm like, well, awesome, I'll do something. And I was like, just out of curiosity, why do I have a slot when you're doing open calls? And he said, you and 4 others are automatically in. I mean, now granted, you got to write a story I like, but you've got the in, because I know the 5 of you will promote it. And if nobody else promotes it, at least I know 5 of the authors are promoters.
Yep.
And you got the spot because of that. Which, hey, I'll take it.
That too has gotten me a lot of work. So.
Yeah. Anything that allows me to, it allows you to skip the slush pile. Take it. Being able to finish. The first novel I wrote was awful. Pure crap.
We've all written that book.
but I finished it.
Yeah.
And there's a sensation that comes with that where you feel it's a sense of accomplishment. You've accomplished something that makes you want to try it again. And so I wrote another novel that I then several years later sold.
Right.
So Evil Ways was my second novel that was my first sell.
Right.
And so, had I not done that crappy first novel, I might never have gotten to Evil Ways. So sometimes being able to finish helps you. And there's a beautiful sense of just accomplishing stuff whenever you type the end.
Yeah.
I'm always, as someone, and I don't remember who, and I'm terrible at remembering who tells me what, but years ago, someone told me that I should set attainable goals, which makes sense. Finishing a novel is an attainable goal.
Right.
But the second part of that was, and then celebrate attaining those goals. Exactly. Don't just go, I finished a book, next.
Yeah.
Celebrate that you made this goal. You did what you, and it doesn't have to be a big celebration. You could stand up and go, woohoo, and go back to work, but celebrate that moment.
Yeah.
It is an accomplishment. You've done something, feel good about it.
Exactly.
And that actually helps buoy you to move on to the next thing. You don't ever want it to become like an assembly line where it's like the end, close, open the new one.
Yeah.
It was a dark, you don't want it to become, because then you lose your passion for it.
Yeah.
And I don't, so setting those goals and celebrating them. Even like I said, even if it's just something simple like, ooh, I finished a book, I'm going to go get myself a milkshake. It's simple stuff, but it makes you appreciate the accomplishment. And so,
right. No, that's very good. And sometimes I will set a tangible goal, like I'm going to order a book from Amazon.
Yeah.
Something like that, or I'm going to buy an extra comic down at the local shop. But you work towards that goal.
And let's face it, in the world of COVID, there are days where I'm going to change into my pajamas today. I'm going to run a comb through my hair.
Exactly.
Because if you're not, there are days. I mean, there's a week where I don't leave the house. Here lately, and it's like I roll out of bed, I roll to the office, I go, if I happen to pass a mirror, I go, what the heck? You should comb your hair because you got hair sticking up over here. I got snow hair when I get out of bed. It's all over the place. And
unfortunately, the only way I have it is now on the sides of my head. So
we'll see. like for the, knowing I was doing this tonight, I showered beforehand, washed my hair, shaved off
You look
some of the
lovely.
stubble, and so I did that for you.
I appreciate that too. I'm flattered. I'm honored. That's more than I did for me. So Eric Hawkins, pardon me, says, I have an acronym for a secret organization in an unpublished comic of mine, DICO, Domestic and International Covert Operations.
If you could find a way to put an S in there.
Right in the middle, right?
Yep. Between the I and the C.
Domestic and
special covert operations.
I was thinking secret, but I like special better.
Special, yep. And there you go. Now you've got Disco.
Yes, the man from Disco, the Disco Man. There, and his last name is Dancer.
Ooh, and the quarterman, the guy that handles all your special tech stuff, he is Disco Tech.
Oh yeah,
I don't know how old Eric is, but I know Brian got that. Okay.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, Discotheque and the Sexolettes. There we go. See, and Eric's like, I'm never speaking to either of you again. So anyway, but Eric will be speaking to me tomorrow night on Comic Book Spectrum at 7 p.m. on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. He can't get out of it. And Cindy Cap says, what song do you sing at a snowman's birthday? Freeze a Jolly. Oh my God, that's gold. That's gold. And Cindy Cap says, getting the word out is like percussive dentistry. Yeah. You might get it accomplished, but you're still not having a lot of fun. Yeah.
Oh my God. And we try so many things. I mean, social media is good, but social media can, like I tell you, it can't be your only source of promotion. Yeah. Because their algorithms make it so hard to reach more than a tiny audience anyway. And it's weird. And it's weird. I get these messages from Facebook all the time saying, you should share this post with more people. But then when I share that post with more groups, they block me for a day. Because I'm using it too much.
Right.
And then they send me another one going, you should share this more. And I'm like,
Yeah, or I put it on my business page and it'll be like I could send something about, say something about Snow Ambition and crickets from Facebook. But then I maybe post a picture of myself with one of my fingers stuck all the way up my nose. And it's like, you can share this picture with more people. Why in the hell would I want to? I'm just I put it there in the first place.
But that's also the one that gets 900 likes. So.
Yeah, which then I figure it's growing on its own organically. But yeah, it's like almost everything that I have that is self-promotional. They have that little blurb down there saying you cannot promote this, you cannot push this, but all the stupid crap I put
because
on
they
there,
want you to pay to promote that.
Exactly. Yeah. So which has its advantages, but right now with the algorithms being foobarred as they are, the only one that's constant right now that I'm finding, and this is for free, folks, is engagement. In fact, even YouTube has changed their algorithms to where it used to be all about how many subscriptions you got or how many people like your video. Well, now the liking the video is important, but not so much as people making comments on it or people sharing it with other people. That's why we ask you, we love the interaction with our audience, but we also ask that you please share this video because it does help us in a lot of ways. But I know that 6 months from now I'll be watching another spate of YouTube videos going, oh, they changed their algorithm again. So
it's weird. It's one of those things. It's like when you think you figured out how the system works, somebody walls up that thing that that allows you to use it right. It's kind of like that's kind of an old joke about working in comics. It's like I get the question, how do you break into comics? And it's like, well, it doesn't matter because when you break into comics and you find a way in, somebody will wall that hole up behind them after they do it. And that's no longer and
I hear you. And Cindy Cap asks, what happened when the snowman got angry? He had a meltdown.
I may have to hire Cindy to write the official snow joke book.
Cindy, are you listening? Are you listening? People get work because of clever title pending. I'm telling you, this show works. And Brian Rodman, who will also be on Comic Book Spectrum tomorrow night. Clever title pending, extended cut part 2. Let's do this. By God, yes. This is the marathon, but I'm having so much fun. So, and yay, Bobby from Cindy Kep. And hello, beautiful people. From Keisha A. Cup. So glad to have you there. And oh yeah, Snow Job, Snow Blow, have other meetings. Stay away from unless there's a dino porn reference.
Yeah, I figure if I think of a title and I can already hear the jokes in my head, then I realize, don't do it.
Yeah, and you're probably hearing it in my voice already.
It also changes because of the covers. Like the Snow books 1 through 6, all have the same image with just different colors. And so that one that was going to be Snow Hard, I said, okay, can't do that. So I'm going to call it Snowed In.
Yeah.
And so, because, hey, they're inside snowed. I made the cover and the cover looked awful. So that's why it becomes Snow Trapped. Because that looked good on the cover.
Yeah.
So
I was a little concerned that mine might not work either, so I'm glad it went through. And here we go. Snowmobile from Cindy Kep. Snow has adventures in Alabama. There we go. That works. Cindy's angling to get in here. I can tell. Snow Blind. A deer hunting trip goes seriously wrong, or the old 1970s trope about getting knocked on the noggin and losing your eyesight. Well, there. See,
I actually have that one on the list, and it's going to be something blows up in his face that temporarily blinds him. But
nice.
That's my plan. Again, I have a list of very loose plots. May never get to them, but they're yeah,
and I've got a couple people in the universe I want to play with. Because I think it'd be so much fun. And Cindy Kep's no chance. A trip to Vegas has unintended results. That's awesome. And Jason Waldman says, I'm here. How you doing, Jason? Buddy? And the Archer Arrow, there we go. Bobby needs to work on a timeline of his literary world. There we go. You can do like
up here.
There we go. Like having all your notes on the lockbox on the Titanic, but
it's all up here, but the timeline in my head. For those of you that have seen the show The Good Place, my timeline looks like Jeremy Bearimy. If you guys have seen The Good Place, that's the thing that's all. That's what my timeline looks like.
Oh, there you go.
It's like it's up here, but but it's it's not always easy to read.
Yeah,
and I do sometimes forget things, so I have to keep notes so I can go back and go, wait, what happened?
Yeah, I started doing that too. Yeah,
or like, wait, I killed this guy. Oh crap!
Well, and mine's more like I'm doing it per book. It's like, well, how did she wind up being a blonde in chapter 23 when she was a redhead in chapter 7, sort of thing?
Oh my God! If you ever try to write anything that happens on 2 different coasts in the same book, and you forget that it's dark here and it's not, when it's dark here, it's not dark there.
Yeah. Oh man. That's why all my stuff takes place in one locale. Usually it doesn't take more than a week or a month to do. So that's how I get around that. So, but no, I'm seeing like a Tarzan Lives kind of thing eventually, where you drag in all your disparate characters and maybe even a few others that aren't really yours, and talk about how Phantom Lady worked with Abraham Snow on this job, sort of thing.
Well, plus, like I said, the fact that the surviving mob family is in a Snow story and they were connected to all these pulp, that means all those are the same, the same world.
There you go. And Jason Waltman says, I am just an accident pulp writer. A lot of us are. And
I remember the first time I was asked to write a pulp story. Ron Fortier. We'd sat next to each other at DragonCon, and I'd never met Ron in person, but we had spoken over the internet. And we knew each other that way, and so we spent the weekend at DragonCon. We were table neighbors, and that was the year Evil Ways came out, and he went home with a copy. And a couple of weeks later, I get a message from him. It says, "Hey, we're starting up this. We're going to do some pulp stuff." It wasn't called Airship 27 yet, but it started up. We're starting up this thing, and I read your novel, and I've read your comics, and I think you have a pulp sensibility. I think you you would be great at writing a pulp novel or a pulp story, and here's what we're thinking of doing. And I was like, well, that all sounds great, and I'm up for it. Just have one question. It's like, what's a pulp story?
Yeah.
And because I didn't know the term,
Right.
like I knew the paper, pulp paper, but I didn't know what type of stories they were talking about.
Right,
And it was an enlightened, because I knew once they told me what it was, I was like, oh, okay, like Indiana Jones type stuff. I got it. But I'd never known it. I didn't know that it had a name.
Yeah, it makes sense because I started reading pulps like the Doc Savages of the mid '60s, and it was several years before I heard the term pulp in relation to that kind of storytelling.
Yeah, well, that's like me. In high school, I was reading the Conan and Tarzan and things like that, and it's like I had no idea those were considered pulp novels. It was just they were cool.
Yeah, they were awesome. Yeah. So, Clyde Hall, my other co-host on Comic Book Spectrum. Good to see you, Clyde. The Chester Gould option. Some villains live to be part of the rogues gallery. Others die, but you have to make a model graveyard for them and put up a headstone. There we go. And Clyde Hall was also in Pulp Reality #1 with a pair of us. So,
the award-winning.
The award-winning.
Yes.
Yes, so, one of these days I can see my I say that I'm an award-winning playwright. I see my award from across the room. One of these days I'm going to just pull that out and let everybody see that thing. So it's
mine are right up there.
Well, okay, hold on a second. This is going to be I'm going to get it. I'm going to get it so you can see it.
So, yes, I have not won a lot of them, but the few I have are up there.
Vamp for me.
So, yeah. I have yes, they have a nice place on the bookcase display with no books in it. There
we go. Okay, here we go.
All right. Show off your award.
Okay, here we go. This was done through the Catherine Randolph Theater back in 1997. And the story is I had written a play because a friend of mine, David E. Laker, who's doing my first audiobook, by the way, he said, I want you to write a play for me because I've read play scripts over the years that, that come over the transom. I want one I can read. So anyway, which is a good recommendation. And so I'm nervous as hell on that night, but I'm trying to be Johnny Iceberg. The only thing that betrayed me was I had my hand on my wife's leg during the performance of my play. And when I lifted my hand at the end of it, there's this big, wet, sweaty palm print on her jeans leg. So I go backstage and I go up to my friend, Dave, and I said, Dave, you guys were great. And he's like, oh, I'm glad you liked it, man. And I'm sorry for what happened. What? And he goes, oh, you didn't see? Oh, go talk to the heroine. She'd love to meet you. And so I'm like, okay. And I go up to her and I'm like, hello, thank you for being in my play. You were really terrific. And she goes, oh, I'm so glad you like it, especially after what happened. I'm like, what? And oh, there's the lead. You need to talk to him. And I get passed around and all of them are apologizing for some faux pas. Finally, I get to the last guy who also was the director. And he's standing there trembling. Because, I'm a little taller than he is, and God knows I'm a lot wider. And he's thinking this may be his last moment on Earth. And so I said, what the hell are they talking about? And he said, you'll see when you get the video of it. But it turned out that he stepped into the role during Tech Week. The last week of the production when you're making sure everything's working right before you perform it before the public in community theater. Well, whoever was playing this role vanished. Like he went into witness protection or something. And so the director stepped in. And there's a huge difference between referring to the script as you're directing and having to pull it out of your head when you're acting it. And so about page 10, he went from in the middle of the thing, he went from page 10 to the end of page 13. And everybody's trying their best to get back on the line. And he's like, Brian, I'm so sorry, man. And I'm like, dude, I'm not upset. And he's like,
didn't even notice.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I just sort of like, wow, they're doing my play. I was just fanboying so bad. I didn't even notice it. And he was so relieved that, like I said, this was done through the Catherine Randolph Theater. And they have an annual award called the Katies, which is like their version of the Tonys. And so the next night I got a mini Katie.
Very nice.
For being basically, one, not murdering the guy, and we're still friends, and two, for being a good sport. So this is my award-winning thing. And I tell people that I got it because I wrote a play. Now, it's not directly because of the quality of the play, but I wrote a play.
Mm-hmm.
I got an award, QED. I won an award for my play. And so, but it's a bullshit sort of thing. That's a technical term in writing. And so I do the air quotes. And in that was in 97. In all this time, I've only had 3 people ask me why I print it with quotes.
Yeah.
And none of them were writers, none of them were editors, and none of them were publishers.
Yeah.
But it's got to be a lot of work.
It's one of those things. You won an award. It's, no matter where it came from or the size of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
I remember when I won my first one, I was still kind of leery about promoting myself as an award-winning author, because when I say, hi, I'm award-winning author Bobby Nash, it sounds pretentious.
I hear you. I
was co-hosting a podcast at the time, the Earth Station One podcast, and my co-hosts Mike and Mike started referring to me every time they mentioned my name, the award-winning Bobby Nash.
Yes.
The award-winning. That it became a thing to where we were at convention. We were at a convention, and Mike and I were sitting. We were in the food court. And we were sitting and having lunch, and we're just chit-chatting. This guy comes over to us and goes, "You guys sound very familiar. Are you on a podcast?" And Mike goes, "Yes." He goes, "Oh my God, I know you. You're Mike Gardner you're Howdy Mike." And he goes, "Yep." And I said, and I said, "Yes." And he goes, "Holy crap, you're award-winning Bobby Nash." And I was like, "Oh my God, it's a thing now." And so I get introduced like that on like friends of mine when I do panels at conventions or whatnot. That's, hey, it's Mr. Award-winning Bobby Nash.
Note to self: next time you have Bobby on, he's an award-winning. Okay, I got you. Okay, I take a hint.
But they were doing, it just became a thing. Like it was part of my name,
Yeah.
So it was it became fun. But there's all. Like I said, it was embarrassing is the wrong word, but it was something I didn't feel comfortable saying. But I realized later that to people that are not me, that's a really, really big deal. And it's a big deal to me too. But the fact that you won an award, people look at stuff differently.
Yes.
Or the other one, going to work for a publisher that they've heard of, that especially you work in indies, a lot of times that you're working for publishers they're not as aware of.
Right.
But I did one book through Dark Horse, and suddenly editors and publishers that wouldn't talk to me the day before the announcement would talk to me because it's a publisher they heard of and they've hired me.
Yeah.
So those are things that it's weird because I don't write any different pre-award as I do post-award.
Right.
I don't write any differently before big company and little company, but to outside people, those matter. I remember my dad he's a big fan of what I do, even though he doesn't read most of it, but he's read some of it. Sure. But I tell him, hey, I'm doing a Black Bat story for this anthology. And he's like, oh, good. Okay. It's like, hey, I'm doing a Green Hornet story. And my dad goes, hey, I've heard of him. Okay. Suddenly what I'm doing is real because it's something he knows.
Exactly.
And so that makes it does make a difference to some people. And so I don't shy away from it. I don't do it in every press release or everything I do, but I don't constantly refer to myself that way.
Well, I always make sure the quotes are around award winning. Yeah.
So I do it a lot of times because a lot of times when we're writing press releases, you write them third person. I don't write them as if I'm writing it. I'm writing it as the company writing it. Yeah. And when the company's writing it, yes, award-winning author Bobby Nash, because that's a business thing, Yeah. I don't go around introducing myself as, hi, award-winning author Bobby Nash.
Next time you sign a check, it's like it starts with an A, right?
Yeah. Although I did get a piece of mail once, junk mail of all things.
Okay.
In the mailbox that was addressed to author Bobby Nash. I don't know how. I don't know why, but that's how it was addressed. And I'm like, hey, the word's getting out. Next thing you know, it'll be award-winning author Bobby Nash.
That's right. Yeah, that's okay. Most of my titles are like I've picked them up from other people. They're either in quotes or my most recent one is Facebook famous.
Mhm.
Facebook famous YouTuber. That's how I
Yeah.
refer to myself now. So
Yeah, I've heard the Insta famous one too. I've heard the
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
I,
I've never considered I don't consider myself famous. I don't know. There are people that know me in certain areas. I don't know. I guess it's good. It keeps me humble. I've not thought of myself as famous,
yeah,
but
yeah.
and I still don't think of myself as famous,
Right.
but there are instances where people that have heard know you when they
Hmm.
first meet you because they've heard of you, and
Yeah.
that is pretty cool, especially when it's like I was talking to a writer, a big fan of this writer, and
Hmm.
we've never met, but I was a big fan of their work.
Hmm.
And I was like, I was at a convention. I was like, "Hi, I'm Bobby Nash. Nice to meet you." And it's like, "Hey, I read your book." And I'm like,
Wow.
"What? Why?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, so stuff like that is,
Hmm.
because I don't know if you get this, but I write it. I'm here alone, and it
Yeah.
goes out into the world. And even
Yeah.
though I'm trying to get people to buy it and read it, I'm still surprised when people buy it and read it.
Yeah. Oh no, I still do that even after all this time. Well, and you mentioned the fame thing. I'm a guest at a lot of
Mhm.
conventions here in the Midwest, and I was at one with Amy Hale and Kathy Jackson. I've told the story often. In a small town in Southern Illinois, uh, pretty small community, and they had a comic convention there every year. And last time we were there, which was 2 years ago, we had people, Kathy and Amy and I were on this panel because the three of us are kind of like the three musketeers when we do these things, and we were getting question after question after question. And you've probably been to some panels where does anyone have a question?
Mhm.
Anyone anywhere? Could you get someone from outside in the hallway with a question, sort of thing? But we were getting a lot of great questions, and finally, one person looked at us and said, "I'm sorry if we're pestering you, but we don't get many celebrities here." And I'm like looking at Kathy and Amy, and they're both and Kathy's looking at me and Amy's looking at the pair, and it's like they're talking about YouTube, right? And it's like, no, it's got to be talking about YouTube. It's none of us could place who we were talking
Yeah,
about.
I
So
remember
celebrity is relative,
yeah,
really.
I
So
remember the first time I was on a panel that was not just an indie comics or indie writing panel, where
uh-huh.
I got put on a panel with like New York Times bestselling authors are on this panel.
Oh, nice.
And so we're introducing ourselves, and they start at the opposite end of the table, and they're getting down. I'm at the far end, so I'm the last one to introduce myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and I'm a big fan of start with a joke. I'm not
Yes,
always funny, but I try.
yes.
And so, and if you can be self-deprecating, so much the better.
Of
And so I
course.
introduced myself as, "Hi, I'm Bobby Nash. I'm the who's he of this panel."
That's a good line.
Yeah. And so, yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, I will say conventions are a nice ego boost
Hmm.
because you do get treated in some cases, more than you feel like in your regular life.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
people are there and they're, because some of the cooler things that have happened to me over the years is I'm always excited when someone brings something to get signed
Yes.
because that takes effort.
Hmm.
You not only did you buy it and read it beforehand, you knew I was at the con, you put it in a bag, you put it on
Yeah,
a plane or in a
yeah.
car, you've carried it around the con all day.
Hmm.
That took effort. You
Yeah.
you made a plan to come
Hmm.
see me.
That's
And
awesome.
that's just it's kind of like it's weird, but
Yeah.
it's cool weird.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
Yeah. I totally get that. Jason Waltman says, "Make a big boo boo." All of my broadcast Jason are pretty much blooper reels from start to finish. So you just hang around long enough, we will screw up somehow. And I know I'm gonna mess up your first name, Siguris Davatos. Hi, how do you create characters? How do you make them complex? How much do you put yourself in the character, Bobby?
Oh, very nice. Okay, good
Excellent
question.
question. Excellent question,
I
sir.
I
I
I
mean,
I am a firm believer character first. Characters, like we said earlier, plots are a dime a dozen.
mhm.
What makes a snow story a snow story is how snow deals with that plot.
Mhm.
It would be a different book if I put one of my other characters in that plot, it's a different story because how your character handles that problem is different based on that character.
Right.
So the first thing I do is get to know these characters. To me, these are not characters. These are living, breathing, thinking people. They don't do what I want them to half the time. They have personalities of their own. They have foibles of their own. They do what they want, and I basically go, "Hey, I need you to go over there," and I follow and see how they get there.
Yeah,
and then listen to what they say. So that's where I start first. Get to know the characters. If I'm starting a new character from scratch, when I write, I go straight to typing. But sometimes when I'm doing characters for the first time, I'll take a notepad and I'll just start writing. And you can type it too, but just start writing, and I kind of free associate ideas. Like Abraham Snow, and then okay, undercover, and I start writing just little paragraphs about who he is. Left home right after high school, joined the army, blah blah blah. At that point, I start working in tidbits about him, and even plot points that like I've got plot points in the Snow one that haven't been touched on yet, but I know they're coming. He met this person here. I know we'll meet him again, a year or two from now. Right. Stuff like that. And you start going in and you get to know the characters. So, and sometimes that allows you to, while you're thinking about characters, wouldn't it be cool if this happened? And you jot a note over there. So you're starting to plan out and sometimes you're even writing down adventures that you have no intention of, doing, writing a story on, but it happened. So it might get touched upon.
Right.
So you get to know these characters, and they have voices. When I was younger, I used to put personalities and voices of people I knew in the character's mouth. That started early. I did when I was writing Evil Ways, which is the first novel that got published, but my second one I wrote. When I was writing it, I took a night class at the University of Georgia, one of those not-for-credit classes. It was called, and this is why I took it, and it was called Murder and Mayhem for Fun and Profit.
I'd be there.
What you would do is you would write at home. You came in. The teacher was a wonderful woman named Harriet Austin, who I loved dearly. She became like a third grandmother to me. I can't say enough good things about Harriet. She was a wonderful cheerleader, and but we would read. There's maybe 20 people in the class, and so they would set the classroom up in a big square, and we would read in front of everybody, and then we would get feedback from not only the teacher but from the other students. And I always tell this story. It's so funny. I mentioned how I was very shy when I was younger, and so I would read. I don't have a full piece of paper in front of me, but I would read like this.
Yeah.
And there was this one lady taking the class. Her name was Sandra. I still talk to Sandra. Sandra would sit next to me, and she would put her hand on my arm and like push my hand out. Push my hand. So eventually she'd leave me alone. I started reading without holding it for. So I overcome a lot of, timidness in that class. Sure. But anyways, to the character part, I'd written this bit in Evil Ways where Harold and Franklin meet for the first time in several years. They're brothers, but they haven't seen each other in a few years. It's their reunion, and they're talking and blah, So I read that, and the feedback I got almost universally from the room was, man, these guys don't feel like brothers. It's just, it could be two strangers talking, and it gets the same impact.
Right.
And it got me thinking, I was like, it's like they just, like I said, they don't feel like brothers. So I went back home, and, in the week until the next class, I got to thinking, well, wait, I have a brother. How do my brother and I interact?
Right.
Which added a lot more foul language and put downs and things like that. Right. Playfully, of course, but I mean, it was. So I decided at that point, and this is still early in the book, but I decided to give Franklin, my brother's personality. So now he has my brother's voice.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave Harold my personality, my voice. So now I rewrite the scene with these two characters with our personalities.
Mm-hmm.
How would it play out if this was us?
Yeah.
And so I wrote the scene, not changing any of the actions, just dialogue and body language.
Mm-hmm.
And I went back and I read it again the next week. And the reaction this time was, you could actually pull out the thing that says they're brothers because we get it.
Uh-huh.
You know, you don't talk to people like that unless they're related. You know, it's that.
Mm-hmm.
And so using those personalities and those voices were a great starting point
Right.
for those characters. And then they grow. And as they grow, you're adding on pieces to that. So by the time you're at the end of the book and into the second book or whatever, the basis of that is still mine and my brother's personalities, but they've morphed as they've become these real characters all their own. Like I don't think about them as him and I anymore. It's just those are those characters but that was a starting point, you know, and so I could see them because in my head I've cast them now.
Right.
I know what they look like. I know what they sound like. I know what they're, you know, and so knowing that, I know how they're going to react to things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you know your characters and you get to know them well, that's why I said your, you know, story is when your character meets your plot. Right. Because you could take the same basic plot and drop 3 characters that you know very well into it. And unless the 3 characters are the same kind of character, if you put like 3 widely different characters in it, you will get 3 very different stories because they will approach the problem differently based on who they are.
Right.
You know, like, I mean, you can pull that from any movie or TV. Kirk and Spock can't go at problems differently because they are very different characters. Kirk's going to punch somebody. Spock's going to think about it for a minute, you know, leap in, plot, you know. So putting them in a plot, their own plot, they would each react to it differently. Right. And so that's the thing is, if you know, the way I look at it is if you know your character and you love your character is what brings your audience back. You know, nobody said, you know, when people ask, you know, tell me one of your favorite book series. And I go, okay, I love the Bosch series. Okay, what do you love about the Bosch series? And I start talking about how I like Harry and what Harry gets into. At no point do I go, well, book, blah, 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 blah. You know, I love the books and the books are great, but the character, that's what keeps me coming back because I know that guy now. That's, you know, I'm so, and when you have that way, it helps you even through when there's a book that doesn't land, or if you have characters that you like in a TV show. Not every episode is awesome. Right. There's some that fail. You know, it happens, but you can get through it because the character you love is still there. So if you can get the character to where they feel real to you, then you can go and you can put some of yourself. And there's little bits of me probably in all of them, even the villains. But you know, I, as a writer, we have to look at not every character can be us because then they all sound the same and they all act the same. And I can write characters that have opposing political viewpoints or opposing philosophical viewpoints that may not be my viewpoints, or they may be, but it works for that character because that's their viewpoint. And it does. And just because I'm writing something that's not my point of view, just because I have a character that says it doesn't mean Bobby the writer. It's not how Bobby feels, it's how the character feels. Right. And so you have to, putting yourself in those mindsets helps you have characters that feel real and all have various, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but they've, you know, everybody's different. You know, everybody's got their own unique things. And so your character should do that too. And I think if you start with character, you can drop your character into any old plot. You know, that sounds weird, I know, but you can take a simple plot and that can be the basis that kicks off this big plot. And don't be afraid to learn as you go. I learn about my characters every day. You know, sometimes I'm writing stuff and they'll come out and in the dialogue, something will get said and makes me go, ooh, I like that. Screws up my last chapter, but
Yeah.
I like that. So let me
Yeah.
go fix that. We mentioned earlier, I had to scrap 3 book plots, because I killed somebody in book 3 that wasn't supposed to die in book 3. But, it's one of those things. Trust your characters. If you trust your characters, they will take you where you need to go. Um, a lot of that also has to do with how you are as a writer. If you're a hardcore outliner, that may not work as well for you, like following the characters, because characters will not follow an outline. I have, the way I do it, I have what I call them like bullet points or signposts or whatever. These 6 things need to happen in the story. How we get there is, I'm open, but I know we've got to do these 6 things. And so I point the character and say, okay, Snow, point number 1 is you've got to be over there. I'll follow you. You take me there, and I'll see how he gets there.
Yeah.
He may get sidetracked along the way, and we go around to get there, but eventually we'll get there, and I get a good story and character bits out of seeing what the character does.
Yeah.
I hope that answered that question.
I think that did.
Yes.
Did. Very
But
cool.
yeah, I think if you get your characters feeling real, and your audience, especially if your audience falls in love with a character, they will follow them, even through stories that don't work as well as others.
Yeah, and if you're writing a character that somebody else has created, get to know that character. And once you get that character inside your head, like Bobby said, they'll take you through the adventure, because their reactions are what fuel it. And you can't, like you said, it was a good point you made about hardcore outliners, which was what I was for a while. But I was also one of those guys where I would look at the outline and then start writing, but I'm listening to the characters. And so I have to change my outlines constantly, because they're taking me in a different direction. Also, I think my characters like to surprise me. So like, there's, probably about 75% of my original notes survived to the end, but there's that 25% that, where Snow's going, no, this is not what's going to happen. And, you've got me too comfortable. Here's how you can screw me up. Okay.
Yeah. And sometimes it's we sound schizophrenic, but sometimes the characters are smarter than I am. So, I was writing this one short story years ago. It was it was a really short story. It was based on an old radio show, so it was a tie-in thing. And so I just come up with a straightforward plot. Hero meets girl he knew. She's trying to get away from abusive husband who's in the mob, because this was a 1940s thing. Mob was everywhere.
Right.
And he tries to help her out. That's the plot. It's simple. So we're going through all this. I'm almost at the end, and this is the first time the good guy and the bad guy have met. And there's some dialogue between them. And as I'm typing the dialogue, it's just, as you get in the zone, it starts rolling out.
Oh, yeah.
And the villain character says something in the dialogue that made me stop. And I reread it, and I looked down. I was like, damn it, he's not the bad guy. I know who the bad guy is. And so I keep typing, and sure enough, that's when the bad guy steps out of the shadow. And I was like, ooh, I love this. This is a great twist. It really works, and it's wonderful. Okay, so I finished the story, and I'm like, now I like to play fair with my audience.
Right.
So if there's going to be a twist, clues have to be there. I don't want to put, because I've read so many books or watched so many TV shows or movies where the one crucial key piece of evidence happens off screen or off.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I want, if it's there, I want to play fair. So I go back and I'm rereading the story to put the clues in. To my surprise, they're already there.
Nice.
So the character was leaving the clues, and it just took me a while to realize what they were. And and I know people think I'm crazy when I say that, but it's true, because I hadn't, in my head, I hadn't put it together yet. So.
I love that.
Yes, I'm nuts. We're insane. Have to be to work here.
It certainly doesn't hurt. It's almost a job qualification here. And the Rising Tide Broadcast Network says, Brian, you bring up an interesting point about timelines as an author. Do you prefer to write a straight line or insert prequel or mid plot? I don't do a whole lot with flashbacks, to be honest. I prefer to, a lot of times, like if I'm doing exposition and such, I try to introduce it as it's needed to avoid the dreaded info dump.
Mhm.
Because you don't need to give a dissertation on everything about Abraham Snow, for instance.
Right.
When you first introduce him, um, for instance, he goes on like kind of a little mini adventure to start the book. Because I was imitating how you started out most of
Mhm.
your books about Abraham Snow, where
Right, because not every character appears in every story.
exactly, exactly. And I also wanted a story where Tom McClellan would be there. And I thought this is the kind of thing what I wrote about that
Mhm.
we'll be calling him in for this. And hey, Abraham, I've got something, you want to help me out on, sort of thing. So yeah, it's so I could have gone into the whole, hi Abraham, hey, congratulations on living a normal life after being 10 years in working for the US government
Yeah.
for Mother. I didn't even introduce Mother till towards the end,
Right.
when it needed to be said.
Mhm.
So yeah, that sort of information, I think in some cases with flashbacks and such, it is useful, but that's just really not my style. I tend to be a
Mhm.
little bit more linear about introducing
Yeah.
information like that.
I'm very much the same way. I prefer the linear. There are exceptions
Oh yeah.
because they're one of the questions that's a part of the overarching story in the first 6 Snow books is who blew his cover.
Right.
So there are a couple of instances, like especially in Snow Star,
Mm-hmm.
where I did flashbacks
Yes,
to,
and that
like,
worked
ever so
great.
often it would be 3 years ago. We're telling
Mm-hmm.
this story. Then we're
Right.
telling them. So but the flashback and the modern day story were interconnected. So
Yes.
that's why.
Yeah.
And so we're able to see things, but it's not something I do on a regular
Mm-hmm.
basis.
Yeah.
A lot of times people will talk about things that happened
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or stuff like that. But yeah, finding ways to get information into the story without an info dump
Mm-hmm.
is a tricky thing. Oh, excuse me, is a tricky
Yeah.
thing. But I use dialogue a lot for that,
Yeah.
And again, I don't mention Mother. Like when he's talking with his friends, he never mentions Mother. They just know he
Right.
was in, but some of them don't know. He was, as far as his dad and his brother he was in the army,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Mm-hmm.
Archer knows because
Mm-hmm.
Archer has ties to Mother. So
Right.
Archer knew, but
Right.
the others don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody knows what he did, and it's one of those things too, because we as the audience sometimes know things the characters don't.
Right.
And yeah.
Yeah. And Rising Tide Broadcast Networks. Did you see the sunrise today, Ivan? I can still
Ah,
and I can still hear that big round 45.5 sound.
that is
Yes.
that is there are a few episodes of Magnum PI that would have been awesome movies. That was one of them. The
Yeah.
Can You Hear the Sunrise?
I remember that now.
That
Yeah.
is it is an absolutely fantastic episode. And the one where you find out he had a wife and all that, and that was a there's a few of them like that that could have been movies, I think.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And they go on to ask, do you make a separate timeline file for your longer running plots? I personally, I have to now.
mm,
I do like chapter by chapter. Here's a brief synopsis of what happened in the chapter. Here's all the characters that's in it. And any
yeah.
sort of reference I do as I write. So
As I'm writing, I have at the bottom of my manuscript the characters that are in it and anything important I need to keep through. Like in Evil Intent, which I'm working on now, some characters die in the course of.
mhm.
When I get to the point where they die, I put a line through and goes dies in chapter, because later people are trying to solve those murders. So I still have to remember who died, who didn't, and so without me scrolling back up through the whole manuscript, because this will be like a regular full length 100,000 word novel.
Mhm.
I have all that stuff at the bottom, so I always do that. I create a character thing, here's the characters, and then with each book I'm adding to it because I'm learning things about them,
Mhm. Mhm.
and so I'll add it to it. And when I'm done, I copy and paste that into its own file. There's my updated character bio character info of where we are at the end of book 6. When I go start book 7, I'll copy it, paste it at the bottom of my manuscript, and I'll start writing. And I'll go down and there's notes. I keep notes in there. I also use that as I found it works for me because I can keep track of my daily work that way, because when I stop for the day working on that, I write down what my total word count is. And so the next day I work on it. When I'm done, I see my work, where I started and where I finished. Oh, you wrote 2,000 words today. Awesome. Get rid of one, put the new one in there. I know where I'm at tomorrow.
Very good.
My readers don't care about any of that, but it helps me gauge my productivity, because there are days where if I don't write enough, or if I don't spend enough time doing work, I kick myself, if you feel guilty or you're not doing this. And we talked earlier about, this is technically a small business. There are days when you can work a 10-hour day and never write a word of fiction. You write words of other things, but not a word of fiction. Now, granted, it's still work. It's still got to get done. But at the end of the day, the product you're moving is the fiction. So you have to find ways to juggle to get those words in.
That's true. That's true. Ted Davis Archery, hello to you, Ted. Glad to see you here. And Jason Waltman says, hey, Ted. And Cindy kept smiles at his presence. And Sigueras Devados asks, how do you research for your writing? Do you research while world building and writing? As someone with not so many resources, I'm curious, what would you do to research for a story? When do you research for a story, before or during writing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Before I start a story, I generally have an idea of what's coming. I'm not like I said before, I'm not an outliner. I don't do a full, but I have ideas in my head and I have notes jotted down, because sometimes I'll get ideas as I'm going. Like we talked earlier, it's like, I'm going to do one where Snow gets in a shark cage. I don't know why, but I'm going to do one where Snow gets in a shark cage. That's a loose plot.
Right.
I have stuff like that. And so knowing, like I'm working on book 6 now, the setting I researched. For anybody that follows me on social media, my dad and I, especially during the lockdown or the COVID, we have started taking road trips. We don't go anywhere; we just go.
Yeah, neat.
And
I love that.
so we're in the car. We're still not getting around other people. We're just out driving. And I take a lot of photos as we're going of locations that would be perfect for something there or something here. Book 6 of Snow, I knew it was going to take place in the mountains, and it's going to be winter and it's in the mountains, and then there's going to be some things that happen. So wilderness stuff. Again, going back to that, I love the man versus nature thing. So in one of our trips, we take various trips, and I was telling my dad, that I was doing, I said, I'll take some pictures of some good, mountainous areas where people can camp, and I want a river and that kind of stuff. And he's like, I know a place. And so that's one of our trips. We went up to Highlands, North Carolina, which is a very mountainous area, but there are waterfalls and a river that runs down the side of the mountain, all the way down the road, circle it. And so we're stopping, I'm taking pictures, and I'm starting to, okay, that's where this is going to happen. Snap, 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 so I'm use it. So technically that's research, because now it's easy for me to say he's standing next to a river when this happens. Now I know what the river he's standing next to looks like, so I can give it a little more oomph in the writing. I'm also, so things like that I do beforehand, or if I know, if I know we're going to be in Hawaii, I've never been to Hawaii, but I can, like if, book 6 opens in Hawaii with Samson Brooks. And so I did a little Hawaii research, which basically meant watching Magnum PI and Hawaii Five-0 episodes. And, it works, I know what Hawaii looks like for me.
Yeah.
But you can do research beforehand of things like that. I know this is going to happen, or, when you're writing, you come up with things where it's like, oh, what's that called? I don't know what that's called. Or I come up with something and I go, yeah, I need more on that. A lot of times you don't want to stop the flow of the writing. So sometimes I will just be going along and be typing and stop hit capital letters, change it to red, and go research here and keep going.
Yeah.
Because I want to explain something, but I don't have the technical know-how yet, so I have to go look it up. But I also don't want to stop writing.
Yeah.
So I keep the flow going, and I just put insert research here and keep going. And then later come back and I can look it up, spend some time, write it how I want it. So things like that. So you're doing it before and during, because sometimes you get ideas as you're going, or it's like, how do you spell this? Or how does this work? Would he be able to go inside that building? Or, how do you bypass a electric fence, or, that kind of, it's weird stuff like that. It's always weird stuff. It's never the big things you think of beforehand. It's the little things. My character's trapped in a room. How do they get out? They've got some dynamite, but the room's full of gas. Can they get out? And there are crazy ways you can make that work without blowing yourself up, because I researched them.
There we go.
So stuff like that. But a lot of times you don't know it till you need it.
Yeah. Or I find myself, since I write so many stories that take place in the past, like somebody sitting in a room, 1938, it's Sunday night. What are they listening to on the radio? Or they just picked up a brand new 78 RPM record. It's, like March of 1942. What record did they just pick up?
Right. Two of mine. What year was the seaplane invented? That was a big one.
Yeah.
What year was the Jeep invented? That was another big one. And then, but the worst for this, I wrote a Yours Truly Johnny Dollar story for an anthology.
I love that show.
The conceit of Yours Truly Johnny Dollar is he's writing his expense report. So you have to know how much things cost.
Yes.
What did a taxi cab ride from this building to this building that went 12 miles cost in that year? It's not easy to find.
No.
What did a long distance phone call from New York to California cost? It's not. I Googled it for hours and could not. To where point I just guessed, because they don't keep records that far back of that specific a thing.
Right.
But So you try to research as much as you can, but you get to some point you just make shit up.
Yeah.
Sorry, I shouldn't have cussed. Sorry, but
that's okay. Shit. Okay. I said bullshit earlier, so you're fine. Okay. So I broke our cherry on that.
I'm trying to be good. I'm trying not to,
I'm doing pretty good. I'll allow an S word every here, as long as it's not. The only snow we allow is mentioning your character. So anyway, that's the only S word we don't allow normally. And by the way, buy Snow Ambition right now. You'll be a better person for it. An angel will earn its wings. So anyway, but you just never stop the writing, and you never know what you don't know until you're into it sometimes. So but thank God we have the internet. Google
and Bing are your friend.
Oh yeah.
I tell you what, someone sent me a link the other. Actually, I found it on Facebook. Someone posted, and it's from more modern day, but there is a 360-degree drone view of New York City. There's video of the drone flying through, and you can turn it like it's one of those, And so if you ever need New York City, I got New York City reference.
Oh yeah.
And so you're always trying to pull reference. I keep a collection of, if I see, and man, social media is great for this, especially Instagram.
Yeah.
You find a person that looks like a character, or that would be a good character. You click on their Instagram page, especially if it's, people that post a lot of pictures of themselves.
Right.
Oh my God, here you go. Here's 50 pictures of that person in different outfits. Jeffrey Hayes, here you go.
Yeah.
That's what she looks like.
Jeff.
Yes. That's what she looks like.
Yes.
Or that's what he looks like. And so, plus it gives you ideas of fashion, of what they're wearing. Is your character a fashion plate, or are they a jeans? Not everybody can be a jeans and t-shirt person. Are they wearing a hat? Are they wearing a fez? These are important things and they also help inform your character. A character that wears a hat all the time, that's when you see them without the hat, it's like, whoa, something's wrong. So it becomes part of those characters. And so all that helps you make them well-rounded, and you just Yeah.
Good answer.
But yes, Instagram is awesome though for fashion and seeing how people dress and people who make more money than me.
There we go.
Because I'm sitting here in sweatpants and a t-shirt. So
yeah. And I'm not telling you how I'm dressed from the waist down. But anyway, John Bruning, good to see you, brother. Oh, go ahead and call it snow hard. What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
Yes. No, I could, like I said, as soon as I typed it, I heard laughing in my head, and yeah.
And it sounded like me going, so anyway. Cindy Cap says, I've done parallel timelines in a book and had to replot it when one character's actions took a week while the parallel tail was 2 days. Hashtag facepalm. Yeah, we've all been there.
I've done a few novels where I would start the chapters by going Saturday, Washington, D.C. Okay, we're in Saturday. Next chapter, it's still Saturday. So we just when the dates changed, I would just change the header in the chapters, and that helped me keep it straight, and it helped the audience keep it straight. So
and I like I said, I started doing the outline with my last first draft book that I wrote for my Patreon people, The Terrors, and I even put in like the weather, because that factored into it. We had a like a near blizzard on Sunday, and the story takes place in about a week. And the last third of the book is like basically a 24-hour period when the characters can't slow down to even take a nap. Because crap is happening. So
and you have to remember that stuff, because I remember when I started Evil Ways, there was rain at the beginning, then it stopped raining, but everything's still wet. And you have to remember, it's still wet.
Yeah.
There are still puddles. They're not kicking up clouds of dust because it's been raining. And so those are, it's those little, and those are the details you tend to forget if you don't make notes. Remember it's raining, or if you're writing a book, remember, like if you write snowfalls and it happens in the spring, you write the second book and it happens in the winter, you can't do the third book in the summer unless it's the next summer.
Yeah, exactly.
And I did do that a couple times where I would make it a point to say it's been 6 months since the last book, or
Yeah. Oh man, see the stuff we've got to put up when we write. I'm telling you, this is not an easy job. It's not for the timid. And Christian Illusionist Jake Lindsay said, "What did the bartender say to the horse? Why the long face?" And what did the mummy order from the deli? A wrap. And Jake Lindsay's taking the next shift from Cindy Cap. What safari did Brian Wilson go on vacation? The Surfing Safari. And the Historical Fencing Guild. Nick Tucker, glad to see you Friday nights at 8 p.m. on the Rising Tide Broadcast Network. I just want to thank Bobby for coming out. Facebook ate the comments. Yeah, I'm noticing we're getting a lot of YouTube comments. Facebook has not been playing nice with StreamYard as of late, and I apologize to everybody who may be like, Brian, you idiot, why aren't you reading our comments? Well, I'm only looking at what I can see, unless Bobby has some sort of special vision that I'm lacking.
Facebook ate the comments as a book title. Somebody will write that one day.
There you go. I'm going to do an Abraham Snow where he does kill Facebook violently. He's going to start on page 1, and the last word is the final drop of blood coming out of Facebook's body.
The first line. What's on your mind?
There we go. And Facebook is evil. That is more true than you'd imagine. And Christian Illusionist Jake Lindsay, what did the shark order at the bar? A Bloody Mary. And why was the sea turtle always angry? People kept saying sea turtle. He was like, see what? And John C. Brooding, Brian K. Morris, one of America's writers. Yeah.
That's right. At Brian K. Morris, he's a writer.
That's right, my God. That's what it says on my tax return, so it must be true. And that's why he keeps seeing on the internet. I'm a writer. So, Christian Illusion, Jake Lindsay, what did the two oceans do before the virus? They waved at each other. Oh my God, he's on fire. And yes, award-winning Bobby Nash and a guy in a fez. Thank you, Historical Fencing Guild. And I bet I know Snow's brother, Yellow Snow, but I think that's another one that Bobby will be ignoring. You know? And what's a tornado's favorite game? Twister. There we go. From Milton Bradley. And Anthony Mack, good to see you. How often is a character's personality based off someone you know?
It happens. I do especially these days. I do get people that say, "I want to be in one of your books," or "This one's fun. Can you kill me in one of your books?" I do get that one frequently. One of my novels, the villain is a real person who is a friend of mine who told me one day, "I want to be a bad guy in one of your books," and I'm like, "Be careful what you ask for." And but he loved it. It came out. He loved it. He's happy. So I mean, it's his name and everything.
Sure.
I usually don't do that. Like if I was going to make a character out of you, Brian, I would use either your first name or your last name. I wouldn't use them together.
Right.
There's enough. You change it enough.
Yeah.
But like I said, every once in a while, someone comes in and says, "Can you?" And I'll use their whole name because they've given permission. And I did that with patrons, like in Suicide Bomb. Suicide Bomb, 2 of the characters that get killed were patrons who said, "Yeah, you kill me." Okay. So I use their names. And so stuff like that's fun. Now, I've also killed people I don't like. People who have irritated me have died violently. I take my hits where I can get them.
Because that's the only one you can get away with under the law. I fully feel your pain, Bobby.
So I've taken out frustrations on people before.
So. I admit I'm guilty of the same thing. Now, the thing was, what I did with mine, I've mentioned on the show in the past, but this one person got on my nerves sufficiently that I changed everything about the character except for the certain personality quirks that were driving me up the wall. And the thing is, all my beta readers knew this person, and so they came back and said, "Are you talking about so and so?" And everyone that reads that story says, "Is that so and so?" And I'm like, "Yeah."
I do try to be a little more careful than that, but it's there's just a handful. I don't. It's not some. I get along with most people, but there are a few people in my life that have just that push just enough that it's like I'm gonna kill you in a book one day.
Yes. And doesn't it feel good?
It's a little moment. I tell you, there's a funny story. I have a cousin. She's much younger than me, and she's maybe 8 or 9 at the time. And they came and her and her mother came and lived with us for a time, and or lived with my family. And I was over visiting one day, and my brother and my brother and I were all just hanging out talking. And my brother goes, "You do know he kills people for a living, right?" Now he doesn't elaborate.
Right.
And so he just lets it go.
Yeah. And
then so later she realized, he goes, "You mean he kills people in his books, right?" And she goes, "Well, he does, he has to practice it so he knows what he's writing about."
Oh no.
And so she was kind of afraid of me for a little while, I think. I was like, no, I don't kill people for real.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
That's what
hypothetically.
That's what the judge told me to say. Yeah. Well, that's okay. Cookie introduces me as a professional liar.
Yep. I did a book signing once, and the lady that was running the store that was there, she made a little sign for my table that said, "Bobby Nash, he tells lies for a living."
I love it.
I still have that sign. I kept that sign. It is awesome.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
Yeah. But in terms of characters, I love I love using people when I can. Real and I mean, not even people I know. Sometimes you just see people. Villains, you turn on the news and someone's doing something that just goes, "Man, I hate that guy. Oh, that's a villain."
Yeah. I'll do something about him.
It's like, "Oh, that guy. See that guy? That guy looks guilty. He's going in a book."
Yeah, and well, in my Volcana series, the heroine's best friend is Kim Perry, who is a dear friend of mine from the St. Louis area. We were at a show one time. I was writing the book, and I told her what it was about, and she goes, "You need to put me in there." I
It's
said,
like,
okay, fine.
okay.
Okay. And I run everything she does by her, and she's told me, don't kill me off. Don't have me raped or anything like that. Be
Mm-hmm.
nice to me. And I know what I'm writing it's going to be part of a trilogy, and I know what the last part of the third book is going to be. And I told her, and she figures into it, and she's like, hurry up and write this other crap. Get that out of the
Yeah.
way so you can get to my story. And so, yeah,
Well, yeah,
it works.
I've done. Usually, I tell people I'm probably going to kill you if I use you, but
Yeah.
some I don't. But most I usually tell them that because it's probably a good bet. But
Yeah.
one of the earliest things I ever did, I wrote this comic book for a small press publisher,
Mm-hmm.
and they came back and wanted me to adapt it into a novel. So I did.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the comic, there's a bit about a police investigation that's 2 panels
Mm-hmm.
where they're talking about it, but that's it. Now, in the novel, you have to expand the story. So
Right.
there are whole chapters devoted
Mm-hmm.
to the investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And so this cop, and it's a superhero book.
Right.
Someone's killing superheroes and they're trying to find one. So the cop ends up teaming up with this superheroine, and even though they're not integral to saving the day, they're investigating.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of it, they end up, kind of going off together and living happily ever after. And I did give them my parents' names, first
Oh,
names.
that's nice.
And so I thought that was, they didn't appreciate it, but I thought it was funny. Yes, I showed it to them and told them, and they were like, "Why?"
Oh my god, that's funny. And Jason Waltman says Red Shade is a fictional version of Jason in the 1940s Private Eyes and Hero working the Domino Lady. Very, very cool. Very cool. And Deninja Gecko, hello to you. Hello, room. Glad to have you here. And the host of Stupid O'Clock, Joe Dog McKeel, Wednesday night edition, because
Wednesday night special edition.
That's right. That's right. This is like Blossom. Tonight's a very special episode of Clever Title Pending. So yeah, Bobby's worth it. Bobby says, we got to get together. We got to do a show, and I say, yeah, we do. We'll make it a special edition because that's what it is.
You have to know how to pitch it. You say, Brian, you want to promote your book?
Mm-hmm. Like pouring honey near a honey hive. You know what I'm saying? Near a beehive. It's like, I'm there. Yeah. Sell more copies of my book. Okay, Bobby, great idea. No wonder you're such a genius.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know what we're doing here. Historical Fencing Guild says, I have, as part of my Big Stompy Robots universe, I have a timeline to keep track of. How do you track Snow's history? Like, okay, in 1998, he may have been in Switzerland, and then revisit the scene.
Well, because of his age, in 1998, he was not in Switzerland.
yeah, there we go. Yeah, and how do you keep continuity straight?
Honestly, it's all up here. Yeah. It's weird. I can't remember the names of people I've met and known for years. Mm-hmm. I can't, but I can remember stories, no problem, and I can remember odd details of stuff like that, no problem. But I do make notes. I mean, I don't have an official I've started it and keep updating it timeline, but I have notes, Mm-hmm. Now, Snow's time during the Army, I do have parts of that because, there were parts where he was actually in the Army, mm-hmm. and then there were parts where he was just in the Army on paper. So I kind of have to know when that happened, especially because book 7 is going to start with a flashback to his time in the Army. Mm-hmm. So, that's a spoiler. I've not told anybody that before.
There we go. Only on this show, people. That's why you got to tune in every time.
Yes, book 7 is going to be called Snow Hunt, and he's going to meet a guy that he knew back in his Army days, in his early days of, with that stuff. Another bit of trivia: the character of Hunt, who he's going to meet in here, was Snow's original name. Snow Falls was originally called Hunt's Bounty.
Oh, nice.
And Hunt was going to be his last name, mm-hmm. And I don't remember why I changed it, but I just kept working through and. Somehow it went from Hunt to Snow, and mm-hmm. it went through a lot of different changes of trying to find the right name. Like at one point he was going to be Archer Snow, and I liked that, but then, I don't know. And so then I changed it, but I liked Archer so much that became the grandfather's name.
Right.
And so, because you want to find a cool character name, but then you also don't want it to feel like a cool character name.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you're trying too hard.
Yeah. And Abraham is not a common name anymore.
Right. Right.
So, that I thought that was very cool to name him that.
Yeah,
And
I've been wanting to call somebody Abraham for a long time. I don't know why. I don't know why the name stuck with it. It's not like I don't have relatives named Abraham, but I
right.
like the idea of that name, especially for someone that's, in this line of work. It
Yeah,
just and so this finally seemed like the best place for it.
I
Plus
love
there's a
it.
lot of cool nicknames that his friends can pull from that.
Yeah, yeah, like
Yeah.
Snowman. I think
Yeah.
that's my favorite is Snowman.
Snowman, Abe,
Mhm.
Ham, you
Mhm.
know. There's
Yeah.
there's all kinds of things they can call him, and
Yeah.
Snowman was. I like Snowman too. Snowman was cool. Although
Yeah.
I can't say it without thinking about Jerry Reed, but
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Yeah.
but
I get that. I totally get that.
but yeah, but yeah. So it was a long process
Mhm.
of coming up with the name, and for like I said, for a while there, his name was Abraham Hunt,
Mhm.
and
Which is not a bad name.
no. So when I changed it to Snow, Hunt just kind of went in the background.
Right.
And so I'm actually going to have Hunt show up. Obviously he won't be Abraham Hunt anymore,
Right.
but he's going to be. They knew each other and they're going to get into something together. And
Mhm. Very cool. Very
so
cool.
yes, an exclusive.
Only for you people. We bring you the best. Got to tune in every episode. You never know what you're going to miss. And Joe Dog McKeel, howdy to you. Glad to see you. Dog McKeel is the host of Stupid O'Clock Thursday nights at 9 and Saturday nights at 11, all times Eastern. You figure out
Puts
where you live.
puts on
And
a fun show called HalloCon that I've been to.
yes. And I'm a guest this year.
Oh,
So
very
looking forward to
nice.
that. Yeah. And
A fun
Facebook.
show.
Yeah, it's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it a lot. And Facebook versus StreamYard Battle Royale. Yeah. Unfortunately, it's those of us caught in the middle who are losing the battle. Oh, by the way, Brian, I saw a guest introduction featuring you for a late October con. Well, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to call tomorrow and get my room. And never seen it, but I've been told that I've been taken out in multiple genres and horrifically, but a few have been heroically. I'm sure they were, Joe Dog. And Anthony Mack mocks us with his laughter as well. He should. Christian alludes to Jake Lindsay. Why did the dolphin cross the sea to get to the other tide? and what did the pirate say on his 80th birthday? I, matey. and what do sea monsters eat? Fish and ships. I love it. I love it. That's great. And what did the cheetah and the lion couple say to each other while arguing? You lying a lot. At least I'm not a cheetah. That took me a moment. And Joe Dog McKeel said, I will be attending the Time Travelers and Intellectual Thinkers Convention 2 weeks ago. It was nice to see everyone there. If you're going, it was the best time ever. Yeah, I love it. I love it. And we are now caught up with the comments, Bobby. Yay, us.
Mm,
Man, we've accomplished something here. And
yes.
yeah,
Woohoo!
yeah. So we're going out for milkshakes now. But it's always a good time, man, when I have you here, man. I love it.
This is fun. I like I said, I love this format. I love
Yeah.
the being able to interact with the comments and the guests and the people watching, and it so much because a lot of times you do stuff like this, you're just talking and you
Yeah.
don't really know who's there and who's listening. And so I love the being able to have the comments and have
Yeah.
people respond and the back and forth.
Yeah.
So this is a lot
Yeah.
of fun. Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun having you. And I think you've given a lot of great information to some
Thank you.
people and maybe gotten them a little closer to getting some words down on paper and getting themselves published. And believe, that's all, folks. But
The landscape of publishing has definitely changed. I mean, when I started, and again, I'm older than probably a lot of people watching, but
go on.
when I started, there was not the options of do it yourself that there are today.
Mm-hmm.
You could print on demand a book,
Yeah.
but you were looked down on because
Yeah.
you weren't good enough to get hired by a real publisher.
Yeah.
And so it was not the benefit that it is now. I mean, things have changed enough now. If you self-publish a book, no one looks down and goes, "Oh, well, you're just not any good. That's why you did it yourself." No, you're not. You're taking control of your creativity, and that's wonderful. I love that there are so many options, and I think certainly it colored the way I looked at things going forward because I grew up in the I've got to submit to publishers to get work. And so there's a part of me that still feels that, you know, and so I still do that. I don't fully do it myself. I like working with publishers as well. I like doing the media tie-in stuff. I'm writing a Lone Ranger short story right now.
Ooh,
That's
cool.
fun. So stuff
Yeah.
like that is fun to play with,
Yeah.
But it took me a while to get out of the mindset of promoting to the bookstores, because I realized, because again, it was one of those things, books were in bookstores, and so once I realized that, I'm never going to be in bookstores with my stuff. Some of the publishers I work for are, but
Right.
That's hit or miss. And so I had to adapt and start focusing on readers, go to where the readers are. And it's not easy, because you're almost hand selling everything. Because it's not like a bookstore, 100 people will see that book or more. I do a Facebook post, 5 people see it, or so there's a lot still. You have to learn how to sell and how to promote and how to talk to people and how to push without pushing, how to sell without selling. I mean, it's if you try hard to sell to people, their instinct is to run, and they go no. So you have to come up with new ways, and it's an ever evolving process. What worked for this book doesn't work for your next book.
Exactly.
And so I spend a lot of my time, racking my brain trying to come up with new ideas. And I see other people doing it too. Like I just noticed today, LeVar Burton, who shouldn't have to do, things. Apparently there's a new social media platform for book clubs.
Oh.
And he started a book club on there. Ooh. And they'll pick, people will join it. You have to pay, I think you have to pay to join it. Sure. But people join them. There's multiple book, groups on there. You join a book club. You guys read the same book, and so there's a part of me going, wow, I wonder if I could start one and have like a book club. We're going to read Snowfalls, or we're going to, So that's something I need to look into. Yeah. With not having conventions, I'm not selling print copies like crazy like I normally do. How do I get books in front of it? So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. And I know you deal with it. Several, other people here in the comments deal with it. Sure. And it's one of those things. It's just, it's a tough part of the business. And yeah, it's just one of those things where you have to continue to evolve and adapt, because again, it's like the getting into comics thing. As soon as you find something that works, somebody walls it up and it doesn't work anymore, or they change the algorithm because now you can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
About 5 years ago, I could go on Facebook and all day long promote myself, and I had a way around the algorithm at the time. Now, if I tried to do it, I'd probably be in Facebook jail for a month.
Yep.
And you're dealing now with robots and with bots instead of like human beings that might be able to say, well, maybe we made a bad choice here, instead of like some badly programmed algorithm that sees something like Joe Dog McKeel fell victim to it recently when he posted a NASA rocket test and wound up being unable to broadcast for 30 days on Facebook, and they wouldn't tell him why.
Yeah.
And then some of us were checking and found out that we had gotten dings from Facebook, hadn't been told we had them. But they were still on our record and we can't expunge them. And it, probably will one day count against us. So, they just keep changing the rules. So we have to keep changing how we play the game. But I think you made an excellent point about how, even when I started back in 2012 self-publishing, there was this prevalent idea that you self-published because you weren't good enough to get picked up by somebody else. But now we are seen as entrepreneurs.
Yep.
And that we have our own business that we're developing, which is really, really beneficial to us.
I think the beauty of it too is with it being open like that, it allows us to try things outside the norm,
Yeah.
because the norm was novels are 90 to 100,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing 30,000 word novellas. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't do that at a publisher program. Well, some are doing it now because people like me and you are doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
a publisher goes, that worked. Somebody's making money doing that. We can do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
Exactly.
so there is innovation happening
Mm-hmm.
from people being able to chart their own destiny for their books. There there are people that are coming up with interesting ways of doing things that are working because they are an
Mm-hmm.
independent. And
Yeah.
so I love that we're in this era of more people doing that and being
Yeah.
creative, and there's options.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot more than there were. I keep calling this a democratization of the creative arts, and that's one of the reasons I love doing this show. One, I get to talk to my friends for
Yeah.
hours on end, and I've got it's now product,
Yeah.
but no, I get to talk to you. I get to meet people
Hmm.
that they sound interesting, have them on the show, and then like other people will come in with their questions and ask
Hmm.
you, how do I do this? Because they don't take me seriously, and I can't blame them. But I've given no evidence that I am to be taken seriously. But no, it's like we can exchange information, best practices, and encouragement, which is something I think a lot of us don't get on a regular
Hmm.
basis, especially since we do what we do in such a solitary manner.
Yeah. And like I said, I've noticed the change. I mean, it used to be as much as 10 years ago, I'd be at conventions and people would come and they would pick up a book. And the first thing they would do to look to the back to see if it had the ad from one of the print on demand companies. Because remember, they would give you a discount if they put their ad on the back.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
noticed that there was a large chunk of the fandom that would come to your table. They would flip it over and go, "Oh, you did this with them." And they'd drop the book and they'd walk away.
Mm-hmm.
They never even looked at the book, but
Right.
they knew, "Oh, you self published this."
Yeah.
And, and I've noticed that happens fewer and fewer and fewer times. I
Mm-hmm.
still get asked.
Yeah.
People will ask, "Did you do these yourself?" And I don't lie about it.
Right.
But I mean, there's things you can do. I mean, yes, I did these myself, but I did them as my company. I have a company logo, a company name,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it's yeah, I refer to it as my indie imprint.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what it's an imprint of, but
Yes.
but it's mine.
Yes. Part of your print empire.
Yes.
Yeah.
But being able, I've discovered that doing these novellas really works for me. It's something I enjoy doing. I enjoy telling 30,000 word stories. I enjoy that.
Yeah.
And so now that I found a way to do it, one of my goals for Ben Books is to get to where I'm doing, you know, releasing 12 of these a year, one a month.
Yeah.
I would love to get, I'm not there. I'm nowhere near there.
Uh-huh.
The next step would be to find a way to do one every other month. And I'm not even there yet,
Yeah.
because other things.
Oh, sure.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but I would like to get to a point where I'm doing that. And the beauty of it is, if you release, for every 3 release of the same series, because I would do multiple, you
Sure.
know, so it's
Right.
not 12 months of Snow.
Right.
It'd be a Snow, a Sheriff Myers, a standalone, a
Mm-hmm.
Snow, a Myers, a standalone.
Right.
And then you collect them, so you've got the big book coming out, and so there's multiple ways of doing it. In ebooks, and we've really barely mentioned audio of the Snow books.
Oh, yeah.
Stuart Goffey is doing all our Snow audios, and they're
Oh,
fantastic. And
they are. They are.
and so we've got those. I'm working with others. I just signed Mark Bilecki is going to do Evil Ways and Evil Intent.
Oh, nice.
So he is working on Evil Ways now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm very excited. Gary Bayton did In the Wind, so he will be the first one I go to when I finish Such a Night, which is book 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I like having the same person, for the
Yeah.
sequels, and
Oh,
it
yeah.
just makes
Makes
it.
sense.
But
Makes
yeah, so
perfect
they're the
sense.
first one I'll go to. Obviously, if they don't want to do it, then But for the most part, everybody's happy to come back and work on the sequels, and
Mhm.
so I like having that team, building that team. And like I think you've seen on all the things I've sent to welcome to Team Snow,
Yeah,
and
I love
it's
that.
so it's you're part of the team, and
Yeah.
so and I'm gonna work you like a dog.
By all means, please do, because don't think this is the last pitch you're getting from me, young
Yeah.
man. Don't think
Well,
that
like
at
I
all. I
said,
had too much fun.
I'm enjoying it.
Mhm.
I'm certainly open to keep doing it. I hope. I mean, like I said, I've got more that are coming. I certainly would like to. I'm actually thinking now, well, wouldn't it be cool? I may do it with other characters. Start out that way and
Yeah,
see. Because really, the 99 cents ebooks are really loss leaders. Nobody makes money on a 99 cent book.
right.
Your profit margin is like 30 cents, 35 cents
Yeah, and
on a
especially since
99.
Amazon wants
It's
you to charge, what is it, $2.99?
yeah,
I think it is, and
yeah,
I'm burning hell for that.
yeah.
You
And
know?
so for a 99 cent book, you're 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 not going to get rich doing 99 cent
Right.
ebooks,
Yeah.
but they're good loss leaders. If you've never read a Brian K. Morris story,
Mhm.
99 cents. You can try it for 99 cents.
There you
Actually,
go.
if you already pay for Kindle Unlimited, you can try it there for free. And,
There you go.
our 30 cent profit goes down to like 15 cents. But,
Yeah.
it's just, but there's, yeah, so it's loss leader stuff.
Yeah.
But then you have then you have the collected ebook, and then you have the audio. And so
Mhm.
there's opportunities
Right.
to get money to everybody, because
Yeah.
ideally I'd like us all to make a few bucks off this. So
I'm
that's
ready.
the as a publisher,
Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like people should get paid.
God
And
bless you, young man. God
as a
bless you.
as a poor indie publisher, I don't have money to pay them, so
Right.
we have to sell books to pay them. So
Right.
that's
Yeah, well,
so that's why we're out beating the bushes. So
exactly, and proud to do so.
yeah.
Totally proud to do so.
But
Yeah, Joe Dog McKeel says, Bobby, tell Brian how well we feed our guests. I'm sold, dude. You don't have to
I've
tell
been
me
to your
twice.
convention. You fed me.
There you go. See?
Yes.
I'm bringing Cookie. I told her about
Yes.
the
No,
food, and she's on board.
no. They fed us really well. We had a wonderful meal, and we were all together. Had a
Mhm.
big dinner. We
I
were
love
all
that.
together. We ate well. A lot
Mhm.
of great conversation, and then we left that and went and hung out with all the other people who in the big room. It was just like a big hangout, and
Mhm.
everybody together kind of
Yeah.
party. So
I'm looking forward to it.
yeah.
I'm expecting to have a really great time, and I appreciate you inviting me, Joe Dog. I really do. Cindy Cap says, "Thanks for hosting the adventure. Great fun had by all." Thank you, Cindy, for your
Thanks,
great questions
Cindy.
and your comments and your wonderful jokes. And don't forget, this coming Tuesday, Cindy Cap is the guest on
Woo!
Clever Title Pending at our regular time. So Tuesdays at 8 p.m. So please join us for a discussion of what Cindy Cap is up to. CKOEPP.com. And Joe Dog McKeel says, "Have a good night, everyone. Great show from what I saw." Yep, and go back and watch the rest of it, Joe Dog. We
Yes.
were awesome. If I can say so myself. And Christian Illusionist Jake Lindsay says, one last joke. What did the scared Pharaoh say at the doctor? I want my mommy.
Mummy.
And Anthony Mack, do you think paper media will ever go away, and will it all be digital?
No, I don't think it ever will go away. I think there was a fear, there was a fear there for a while that print is dead.
Yeah.
And what we've discovered is no. I think just like the fact that vinyl records still sell a ton, the fact that CDs still sell, DVDs still sell,
Yeah.
even though there's new things, there's a lot of people that love the collectability and holding stuff in their hands.
Mhm.
There's a lot of people that are just happy to read a story digitally and they're done and they're going to the next thing, and there's nothing wrong with that. But
Mhm.
there's a lot of people that like something tangible. They like something they can hold in there. And I can't sign an ebook. Well, I can, but it's there is a thing called Authorgraph. I
Right.
guess it's still around, that
Yeah.
I've done, digital. They'll send you a digital book plate. But there's a lot of people will pick up, books at cons, and I can scribble and deface them and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And and I do, like I said, I have a store where some people buy autograph books directly from me, and they get the
Mhm.
little envelope art. So that stuff's fun. So yeah, so I don't think print's going to go away. I just think it's going to, like everything else, it's going to continue to evolve and change. It's going to ebooks still sell, and ebooks still sell well, but ebooks haven't changed since they started. So I think at some point there's going to be a change to how ebooks work. I don't know what that is. I know there's some instances now where, the ebook will, your e-reader will read it aloud to you. There may be a way in the future that the ebook and audiobook can come as a package deal. That would be awesome. It's just your book and record set, So I don't think it's going to go away, because I do a lot of conventions and events on normal years, to where I'm seeing people with stacks and stacks and stacks and stacks of books. So I don't think it'll ever go away. I think it's priced out to, unless something happens where paper costs jump again. But we've kind of learned too, that's only a part of the truth of why books are expensive, because they used to say that paper costs were the reason the books are high, but now they charge the same price for the ebook as they do the paper book. And they're still blaming on paper cost, and there's no paper involved with the ebook. So, it's business it's business trying to make money. Right or wrong, I personally would never charge the same for an ebook as I would a paper book, but that's just me. Because I think what I like to read, how I like to do it. But yeah, no, I don't think paper will ever go away. I hope not. I love reading paper. I spend all day staring at a computer screen. I stare at words on a computer screen all day. When I read for pleasure, I prefer to read on paper, because my brain thinks, oh, you're reading something on your words on the screen, you should be editing. And then I find myself editing and not reading. And they've already gone through edits on this book that I didn't write.
Right.
So I don't think it's going away.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I mean, unless it was some sort of like ecological catastrophe that prevents paper from being the basis, but then I could also see finding another substance.
Right, but then again, some of the paper that's in books now isn't really paper. Like, it's not like pulp paper. It's a synthetic blend of whatever. It's not paper.
Right.
So I mean, there's all kinds of options, and I don't know, but I don't think. I mean, ebooks have done well, and ebooks do well, and during the pandemic, I've sold more ebooks than the previous years.
Right.
But I've lost a lot of sales on paper books, so it didn't even out. But there's still a lot of people that like holding it in their hand, and there's just I don't know. There's like I said, I foresee more of, if anything else happens, I think the next big change will be a change to how ebooks are done.
Yeah. And there are advantages to the ebook format in that you can have hyperlinks in most of them. Not all companies allow the hyperlinks.
Right.
But
I also think too, with terms of the ebooks have opened up sales of certain genres, because people used to be embarrassed to read their erotica in paperback form because you could see the cover.
Right.
You hold up your phone, nobody knows what you're reading.
Yeah.
So I think some of the things people used to be embarrassed that they were going to get laughed at for reading, they can read now with no problem.
There you go.
Unfortunately, that's not my work.
Yeah.
But but the technology has made it easier to read on the go, read where you want to. And certainly I see that with my sales in more of the cities where there is a lot of public transportation.
Right.
Your New Yorks, your Chicago's, places where there's a train. More people are taking the bus and the train than anything else. I live here in Atlanta, where more people drive. So you're not reading. They're not reading while they're traveling.
Right.
So
Yeah. Good answer. Very good answer. And the Historical Fencing Guild goes, as a hyper broke writer, I appreciate the concept that money is a thing. Yes, indeed it is.
Nothing makes me feel more like a failure as a writer and a businessman than doing my taxes.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I was on a podcast a couple years ago, and somebody was the host asked us about validation of our abilities, and the person that was on there with me, God bless him, he was talking about, well, I am creating art, I am creating entertainment, I get my validation from the love I get from my audience, and they came to me, and of course, cynical me had to open his mouth and said, well, I got a check from Amazon a week and a half ago. That's all the validation I need that I'm a writer.
I had one. I do work for some, like I said, I work for other publishers as well.
Right.
And I work for a couple of smaller publishers. And I have had people, I had a couple of people come up to me and go, why do you write for this publisher?
Yeah.
They're so small. Why do you write for them? And I was like, because what they do is they call me up and say, Bobby, I need a short story. I'll give you $100. And I'm like, great, I can pay the phone bill.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes it's that simple. I mean, we still have, I still got to keep the lights on,
Mm-hmm.
so it's, sometimes you do things, because there's money involved, and,
Right.
Sometimes you don't. I mean, there are things, let's face it, for what I've made off of Snow since I started,
Yeah.
I could have done other stuff, but I love what I do.
Yeah.
I love these characters that I've created and I've got to know, and I love them, and I love writing them, and I hope to continue writing them. Hopefully more people will read them and come along for the ride.
Mm-hmm.
But if they don't, I'll probably continue to write them anyway, and for just a small niche audience. But the selfish part of me that's gotten accustomed to living indoors and having air conditioning here in the Georgia summer
Good idea.
wants to sell books because air conditioning isn't free.
That's right.
So stuff like that. But money is not the first motivating factor for why I do what I do, but it is a factor in there at some point. You have to, you still have to go, okay, if I'm not selling anything, maybe it's time to do a new book or a new character,
Exactly.
but that's all business stuff, But like I said, I'm having fun. I love the Snow books. They're not, like I said, they're not making me rich,
Right.
but the people that are reading them do seem to be enjoying them. I haven't really heard anything negative from anybody, but so maybe the people that hated them aren't just commenting. It could be. It could be. Yeah. But so like I said, so far they're pretty well received, and the Sheriff Myers book was very well received. I was actually surprised I didn't, because it's been so long since Evil Ways and Deadly Games that I was surprised anyone would care. And actually, there's a lot of people. There's a few. Well, there's a percentage of people that read this that had no clue about the other stuff until I mentioned it in all the press releases. Oh yeah, this is his first book, but it's his third appearance.
Yeah.
And so but you can still read this without having gone back and read those. That's what I know. I need to make it so you got to read them all to understand what's going on. That's what I need to do.
There you go. Yeah. So you've got a universe here. It's a whole cohesive universe now.
Yep.
So yeah. So yeah, I mean, you've got people that want to get in on this too. That enjoy working with you and hope to do it again sometime.
Oh yeah, it's been fun, and I'm enjoying like I said, I am enjoying that other people like my characters enough to want to write them.
Oh yeah.
Because I as you know, I mean, it takes time to do this, and you put a lot into it, and so the fact that people are interested enough that they want to do something with one of my characters is very touching and moving, and and people are doing it and happy to do it, and because like I said earlier, and my fear was I'd say, anybody want to write a Snow story, and I'd hear crickets, and I'd go, okay.
Not just no, but hell no.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But the fact that there are people out there that have enjoyed these characters, and I've gotten, like I said, I've gotten good feedback, and I've met people that are asking when the next they're asking, when's the next one coming? What are you doing with this? Why aren't you done yet? Can't you write these quicker?
Yeah.
And I won an award for the Snow books. That was really cool. I was nominated for best short story for the Pulp Factory Awards for one. I didn't win, but I was nominated. But then the Sangria Summit Society gave me their new Pulp Fiction Award last year, which I didn't even know existed until I won it. So, which was awesome.
Great introduction, yeah.
Yeah, so it was a nice. I mean, I knew the society, I just didn't know they did the award.
Right.
And you know, because the guy that runs it is a fan. He's one of my patrons, and he's bought some stuff. And
nice.
And so I won this, and so that was cool, and it was exciting. And I, excuse me, I was able to get some press out of it because I sent the award thing to all the local newspapers or all the Georgia newspapers, and a few of them did interviews with me and picked up the story. And so, excuse me. So there's different ways that you can promote without trying to sell this stuff.
Yeah.
So, and that was all cool. So Snow has done things that has made me very happy. So
that's good. That's great. Well, it's made me very happy to read and to be able to participate. So thank you, Bobby Nash. I do appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you for being part of it. Like I said, it was fun, and I enjoyed your story. Hopefully, some of the folks here tonight will check it out. It's only 99 cents. And Brian gets the 35 cents, for every sale. So,
I'll split it with you, Bobby. I'm here to help you. I'm in
your
corner.
for the ebooks, I'm letting the writers get all of that.
Okay.
When we go to the other books, then the publisher will get a cut, and Jeffrey will get a cut. And,
Good.
Like I said, 99-cent ebooks, they're pretty much loss leaders.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I think I gave them to my patrons. I think you gave them to your patrons.
I gave them for my $10 level on my patronage.
So there's some, stuff like that. So they're good stuff like that. If you ever want to do a giveaway, it's a good giveaway item because you're not out much,
right?
But and like I said, 35 cents is your profit margin on an ebook, a 99-cent ebook, and so you're not going to get rich.
Mm-hmm.
So, but if 100 of you buy them,
so
Brian can have dinner.
There we go. Don't do it for me. Do it for Cookie.
Do it for Cookie.
Do it for Cookie. Nobody cares what happens to me, but by God, they love Cookie. And do it for Jeffrey Hayes. Do it for Jeffrey Hayes of Plasma Fire Graphics when the look of your book matters to you.
Yes. Brian can take Cookie out to dinner and watch her eat.
There we go. That could be fun. And she might even get dessert. You never know. Yeah. See, so that all depends on you. And Cookie will find out where you live. She'll gut you like a trout. Anyway, if she knows she's lost out on a meal.
Yeah. But most importantly too, I would say if you've been listening to us tonight and any of this sounds interesting, also if you have friends or relatives or anybody that likes to read crime thrillers and action, send them. There's currently five Snow novellas, 5 Snow novellas,
right?
4 Snow shorts. Well, technically 5 because there is one in Pulp Reality #2.
That's true, and there's
which will later get added to the 99-cent stuff. But
very cool.
Excuse me. So go out and check it out. We have a website. It's abrahamsnow.com. There's links there. Mm-hmm. You can search the Snow series on Amazon, and there's a series page. So lots of different ways to find it. It's collected in volume. So if you don't want to just get one, you can get 3 in a larger book, like that. Yeah. And audio books. And so there's a lot of different ways, whatever you like. If you know people that like this stuff, tell them. Right. Support Brian.
There we go. Support Cookie and Jeffrey. They deserve it.
Yes.
So, and we have got a thing that we're going to put in here. And we're putting it on the Facebook thing, so y'all get a link there. www.abrahamsnow.com and www.bobbynash.com. Please share and check them out. And endorsed by Brian K. Morris Rising Tide Publications, so it's good because we don't just endorse anyone.
That's right.
Exactly. So, Bobby, as always, it has been a pleasure, and I think we may have broken our previous record on time for the show by a couple of minutes. So,
the last time I was on here, we ended up going really long.
We went long, but it was fun. It was fascinating as always. And Bobby, you know that it's not a deterrent to you coming back. Trust me. And the Jon Snow cinematic
No,
universe.
wrong Snow. That's one of his ancestors.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's the alternate timeline version of him.
Although I've had several people have referred to him as John. I was like, no.
No. So anyway, Bobby, again, thank you so much, brother, for being here. And
my pleasure.
And Anthony, glad you enjoyed it. Thank you for being here, my friend. So, Bobby, one last chance. I'm going to give you the spotlight here. Tell everybody how they can keep up with you and your amazing work.
Sure. Well, as we said, BobbyNash.com is my website. AbrahamSnow.com is the snow site. Ben-Books.com is my imprint, Ben Books. I'm all over social media. I'm author Bobby Nash on Facebook. I'm at Bobby Nash on Twitter. I'm Bobby Nash Writes on Instagram. At one point, those were all the same, but I got hacked in a couple places and had to get new things. So I'm all over those. Feel free to say hello, reach out. I have an Amazon page. I have a Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Bobby Nash. As I mentioned, I'm doing we do serialized novels. We're doing 2 serialized stories each week. So at least a chapter of each week. Plus, new stuff, folks get them. If you're $5 and above, you're in the ebook of the month club. Nice. So I'm going through basically my backlog and I'm getting to the point I'm starting to run out. But you can if you don't mind digging through the back posts, you can get them. So if you want my catalog, there it is in ebook form. But yeah, so that's where you can find me. I'm in all those places, and yeah, feel free to hit me up, say hi, tell me you saw me on Clever Title Pending, and
there you go. There you go.
I'll say thank you for staying up late with us.
Exactly. And know that there will be a sequel to this show because we're going to have Bobby back because we love talking to him. You're always fantastic, Bobby.
Oh, thank you. Yes, right. and I can talk.
It makes my job easier. So anyway, Bobby, we're going to put you on the background here, and so I can say goodnight to you properly. But again, thank you very much, sir, for being here. Appreciate you so much.
Good night, everybody.
All right, there he goes, and here I go. So anyway, again, thank you very much to Bobby Nash, BobbyNash.com. Please check out his Amazon sales page or his author page there. Check out all the websites that he has, and please check out Snow Ambition, the newest publication from Ben Books with that great Jeffrey Hayes cover. From Plasma Fire Graphics, when the look of your book matters to you, who also sponsored this episode. Please check it out. I think you'll like what you see, and please leave us a review when you are done on Amazon. It helps us so very much. And good night, Bobby, from Jason Waltman. Jason, thank you for sticking around. Glad to have you here as always. And we're glad that you stayed here too. Thank you for being a part of the show. Thank you for your great questions and your comments. Greatly appreciated. And thank you to the Rising Tide Broadcasting Network for powering this show. Please take a screen capture of that. We have your entertainment and information 7 days a week now. And tomorrow, or actually in a few minutes, it's going to be Thursday. And we've got Ted Talks Timepieces with Ted Davies Artistry at 10 a.m. all times Eastern. And then at 7 p.m., I will be back with Comic Book Spectrum with Eric Hawkins, Clyde Hall, and Brian Rodman with reviews and discussion about current comics and the past. And at 8 p.m., we'll be Creative as Hale with Amy Hale and her husband, John, with a great creative guest. Please tune into that. It's always a good time. And then Stupid O'Clock at 9 p.m. with Joe Dog McKeel, the Skunk Rocker, and Dan and Heather and John and everyone. It's a great after-hours conversation show. You will enjoy it so very much, and we appreciate the Rising Tide Broadcasting Network. We also appreciate our Patreon supporters. You see here on the screen for a modest monthly subscription, you can get advanced looks at our works, download our books, and see our exclusive blog, as well as get mentioned in every show we do. So please check out what we offer you at www.patreon.com/Brian K. Morris. And thank you all for tuning into the special edition of Clever Title Pending. We'll be back at our normal time next Tuesday at 8 p.m. with the great Cindy Kep, author of Animal Eye, the book, and Animal Eye #1 are currently being kickstarted. It's doing very well. We hope you'll check that out on Kickstarter. Just do a search for Cindy Koepp, Koepp. Go to ckdoepp.com and also check out her free monthly newsletter. Also, you can check out our monthly newsletter at risingtide.pub, and we are on almost all social media, as well as Amazon. Please check us out. We're glad to have you. And again, thank you to Jeffrey Hayes and Plasmafire Graphics for sponsoring this episode. Thank you for staying with us this whole almost 4 solid hours. We hope you've enjoyed what you see, and we'll see it real soon on one of our other shows. So anyway, as always, folks, be sure to stay smart, stay safe, wash your hands, and never apologize for being awesome. This is Brian K. Morris. Thank you for watching Clever Title Pending. Have a great night, everyone.
From author Brian K. Morris comes a classic hero in a high-flying, fast-paced, and action-packed steampunk adventure. The original Skyman battles the Master of Steam. With an introduction by comics icon and historian Roy Thomas. A Rising Tide and Ace Comics publication. Available now in print or digital format on Amazon.com.